Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening, playfully tapping the heads of the 2 girls. Alright, let's go to the Imperial capital then. He then smiled and nodded. Little fairy doctor feels delighted. Emotion value plus 100. King Lin feels happy. Emotion value plus 70 since both girls wanted to go, and Goof was quite carefree. Visiting the Imperial capital wouldn't hinder his cultivation. Seeing Goof agree, Jia Xingtian maintained a calm expression, but internally, he was thrilled. Jia Xingtian feels satisfied. Emotion value plus 40. Afterward, Goof and Jia Xingtian's groups headed toward the Imperial capital together. Jia Xingtian kept observing from the side, growing increasingly astonished the more he watched. Goof's strength was likely far greater than his own. Whenever they encountered magical beasts on the way, Jia Xingtian would barely start to be on guard before the beasts would flee in fear of the aura Goof emitted. With more contact, Jia Xingshan began to suspect that Goof might be a Dancester expert. Jia Xingshan feels admiration. Emotion value plus 40 throughout his life. Besides securing the stability of the Jia Ma Empire's royal family, Jia Xingtian's greatest wish was to break through to the ancestor level. As a result, along the journey, he lowered his stance considerably, hoping to gain some insight into breaking through from Goof. Whatever Goof and his group needed, Jia Xingtian personally assisted them, with a kindness that would have shocked anyone familiar with him. The renowned emperor of the Jia Ma Empire, Jia Xingtian, being so enthusiastic towards a few young people was almost unbelievable. Meanwhile, the little fairy doctor and King Lin had learned about Jia Xingtian and Yayi's identities. But they didn't react much to the royal status. King Lin even secretly and proudly whispered to Goof, "Big brother Goof, you're really amazing. Even the royal family wants to curry favor with you." King Lin feels admiration. Emotion value plus 70. Goof chuckled and patted her head, glancing at the little fairy doctor before saying leisurely, "Our destination is the Jia Ma Empire's palace." Little fairy doctor and King Lin exchanged glances, unable to contain their excitement. Although they weren't particularly drawn to royalty, they were still young girls with dreams of being princesses and were curious about what the palace might be like. Along the way, little fairy doctor and King Lin chatted happily, and soon they arrived at the Imperial capital. After arriving, Jia Xingtian arranged for Goof and his group to stay in the palace with the highest level of hospitality and instructed Yayi to ensure the guests were well taken care of. The next day, after the little fairy doctor and King Lin woke up, they decided to explore the capital's bustling streets, with Goof naturally following along. Seeing them about to head out, Yayi, who had a less than pleasant impression during their first meeting, dutifully accompanied them, sticking close to the 3. As they strolled through the city, they eventually reached the entrance of the Primer auction house. At the grand and luxurious entrance of the auction house, many elegantly dressed people were coming and going, the air around them filled with a faint fragrance. Seeing such an impressive auction house, little fairy doctor tugged at Goof's sleeve. "Big brother Goof, I want to go inside and take a look." Goof nodded and glanced at Yayi beside him. Yayi, dressed in her palace attire, smiled and stepped forward, handling the exchange smoothly. The hostesses at the entrance stood up straight and respectfully led them inside. As they entered the auction house, a seductive and enchanting figure slowly appeared before them, drawing countless gazes. This woman, with a slight, alluring smile on her charming face, wore a bright red, form-fitting robe, exquisitely and elegantly crafted to perfectly accentuate her curves. Underneath her robe, her long, snow-white legs dazzled the eyes of men, stirring a fiery desire in their hearts. Chapter 59, Teacher, do you know someone with a heavenly flame? What a beauty! When this enchanting woman appeared in his sight, even Goof couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Although her looks weren't absolutely stunning, her alluring nature was off the charts. Given her unique charm and the fact that she was at the Primer auction house, Goof didn't even need to guess her identity. Yef greets the crown princess. Yef recognized Yayi and greeted her with a charming smile. Then, her gaze naturally fell on Goof, who was sitting quietly to the side. Yef could discern that this group of people was centered around Goof. Even the crown princess Yayi seemed to be just accompanying him. Her ability to read the room was exceptional. Combined with the news that had spread through the capital last night, Yif quickly deduced that Goof was the esteemed guest the royal family had invited. Next, Yif warmly extended her hospitality to Goof. "Young master, if you see anything you like, just let this sister know." She gracefully stepped closer to Goof, her voice carrying a soft, tingling sensation. This woman radiated an irresistible charm. Under her long, alluring gaze, Goof's heartbeat momentarily faltered. With every smile and glance, Yif exuded pure feminine allure, making even Goof marvel at how captivating she was, like a bewitching cat. She was indeed a rare beauty, and few men could resist her. Although she wasn't quite on par with Queen Medusa in terms of overall beauty, Yif was far more proactive and adept at appealing to a man's desires. Humphrey. Seeing Yif's behavior, Zhao Yi's Yan snorted softly, seemingly displeased. She quickly grabbed Goof's hand and walked away. Yif could only manage an awkward smile at this and chose not to say more. As they continued to browse the auction house, Goof indulgently told Zhao Yi's Yan and King Lin, "Anything you like, just buy it. What matters most is what makes you happy." The two young girls, seeing such luxury for the first time, were visibly excited. They eagerly explored the treasures, their eyes sparkling with wonder, and Goof dutifully picked out each item they fancied, preparing to pay. However, when it came time to settle the bill, Yayi quickly interjected, "Young Master Goof, just charge these to my account." Goof didn't argue, as he wasn't particularly interested in these worldly goods. After their shopping spree at the auction house, Zhao Yi's Yan and King Lin were still brimming with excitement. That evening, Jia Xingtian even arranged a special banquet for Goof, inviting all the elite families of the Jiama Empire. The guests, aware of the significance of the event, had come well prepared. When Goof received Jia Xingtian's invitation, he hesitated for a moment. Remembering how excited the girls had been during their daytime shopping, he decided to take Zhao Yi's Yan and King Lin to the banquet to broaden their horizons and let them experience something new. "A banquet? Sounds great. I want to go too." Zhao Yi's Yan was delighted and readily agreed. She and King Lin then started preparing their outfits for the evening, inspired by Yao Yi's elegant and sophisticated palace attire. While Zhao Yi's Yan didn't express it openly, she was inwardly competitive, wanting to match up, whereas King Lin was simply focused on finding a beautiful dress. That night, the banquet began on schedule. Family heads like Mu Chen of the Mu clan, Nellen Su of the Nellen clan, and Tang Shen of the Primer family all made their appearances. The three old men exchanged knowing smiles and lightly clinked their glasses, each aware of the other's intentions. As soon as Goof stepped into the banquet hall, every eye turned towards him. "Young Master Goof, you're here." Yao Yi and Jia Xingtian greeted him with cheerful smiles. Tonight, Yao Yi was dressed in a very formal outfit, with a touch of rouge on her lips, making her look particularly enchanting. Everyone at the banquet turned their attention to Goof, recognizing from Jia Xingtian and Yao Yi's respectful demeanor that he was someone of great importance. They knew that Goof was the guest of honor at this event. Mu Chen has become curious, plus 30 emotion points. Nellen Su has. Goof's gaze swept across the crowd, and suddenly, a beautiful young woman caught his eye. She had a cold yet alluring appearance, and her beauty seemed to rival that of the woman who had once disappointed Goof. She was dressed in a long, wide-sleeved moon-white robe that hugged her slender waist, accentuated by a pale silver belt, perfectly highlighting her delicate figure. Her earlobes were adorned with green jade pendants that emitted a crisp sound as they swayed, adding a touch of elegance. When she unexpectedly met Goof's gaze, there was an unmistakable curiosity in her eyes. Nellen Yanran has become curious, plus 80 emotion points. From the system's prompts, Goof quickly identified the people present. Nellen Yanran had recently broken through to the rank of a DA Grand Master after consuming a pill given by Yun Yun. She had hurried down from the Misty Cloud sect with the sole purpose of finding an alchemist who could detoxify her grandfather, Nellen Ji. Years ago, Nellen Ji had been bitten by a 5th-rank magical beast, searing iron poison weed, and had been poisoned by its venom. The venom was not ordinary, it was so potent that even 6th-rank magical beasts had been fatally poisoned by it. If not for the fact that these creatures were exceedingly rare, many across the continent would have feared it greatly. Although Nellen Ji had managed to slow the spread of the venom, there was no way to completely cure it. The Nellen family could only watch as Nellen Ji weakened day by day, his life hanging by a thread. Even the president of the Alchemist Guild, Master Fama, was helpless. According to the Pill King, Guhi, only a heavenly flame could neutralize Nellen Ji's poison. Nellen Yanran's curiosity about Goof quickly gave way to concern for her grandfather. In a somber mood, she found a spot outside the banquet hall to sit and drink alone, avoiding the other noble ladies who were trying to get close to Goof. "Teacher, why are you here?" Before long, Nellen Yanran noticed her teacher, Yun Yun, arriving as she sat drinking outside the banquet hall. Yun had heard about the royal family's invitation to Goof and learned that he would be attending the banquet. After some internal conflict, she couldn't resist the urge to come and see him. Tonight, Yun's attire was different from her usual style. She wore a somewhat revealing evening gown, more in line with what the noble ladies would wear, showcasing a different side of her elegance. The light, elegant white fabric highlighted Yun's ethereal beauty, and the subtle softness of her outfit balanced her usual cool demeanor, making her even more captivating. "Teacher, what should I do? My grandfather is lying on his bed, on the brink of death, and even Master Fama is powerless." Yanran, her emotions uncontrollable due to the alcohol, tearfully told her teacher about her grandfather's condition. Her face was filled with sadness, and her voice was choked with sobs. Yun listened in silence for a moment. Then, with a slight raise of her brow and a flash of emotion in her eyes, she asked, "Yanran, did Guhi really say that a heavenly flame could save your grandfather?" Her gaze involuntarily shifted to the hall, where Goof was surrounded by people, his expression calm and confident. Yun's heart skipped a beat. "Teacher, do you know someone who has a heavenly flame?" Yanran, catching on quickly to her teacher's words, sobered up almost instantly, her face lighting up with hope as she asked excitedly. Chapter 60, Sorry, not interested. Yun hesitated for a moment, then lightly nodded her snow-white chin. "That's great. This way, my grandfather can be saved." "Teacher, who is the person with the heavenly flame?" Upon getting confirmation from Yanran stood up excitedly and asked. "The main guest of today's banquet." Yun's eyes flickered as she whispered. "The main guest of the banquet." Yanran followed Yun's gaze and happened to see Goof in the hall. The young man wore a luxurious robe, his face adorned with a warm smile. He stood tall and handsome, exuding grace and charm. Earlier at the banquet, Yanran had briefly locked eyes with him before quickly looking away. Now, following Yun's words, she looked at Goof again. At the same time, she vaguely noticed something unusual in her teacher's gaze toward Goof. "Teacher, do you know him?" Yanran asked curiously. "I once met him in the Magic Beast mountain range. The pill I brought back for you before was made by him." Yun's expression shifted slightly, and she slowly replied. "So that pill was refined by him? I always thought it was made by Elder Guhi at your request, teacher." Upon hearing this, Yanran was even more surprised. Yanran feels surprised, emotional value plus 80. Her understanding of Goof was based solely on rumors among the upper echelons of the capital. She knew that Goof had a powerful rank 6 magic beast, and his background was extraordinary, likely from a significant force out for training. Unexpectedly, at such a young age, Goof could already refine a Tier 4 pinnacle pill. Such talent was unparalleled in the Jiama Empire. With his high talent in alchemy and possessing a heavenly flame, it seems that Grandpa can indeed be saved. Thinking that Goof could save her grandfather, Yanran was instantly overjoyed, her eyes shining as she looked at Goof. Every day that her grandfather suffered from the searing poison, his body weakened further. She could not afford to delay any longer. Today, no matter what, she had to ask for Goof's help. Yanran then walked directly into the banquet hall, heading toward Goof. Yun remained seated, resting her chin on her hand, her eyes complicated as she watched the young woman hurriedly lift her skirt and rush away. How much she wished she could do the same and meet Goof directly. Yun feels melancholy, emotional value plus 100. Young Master Goof, hello. Yanran entered the banquet hall, approached Goof, and gracefully brushed back her hair, greeting him proactively. Her exquisite face bore a soft smile, and the wide-sleeved, moon-white robe that only disciples of the Misty Cloud sect could wear occasionally revealed the graceful curves beneath. In terms of figure, she was in no way inferior to Eve, though their temperaments were entirely different. Although Yanran initiated the conversation, there was still an underlying pride in her expression. Goof glanced at her lightly and nodded. There were too many people at the banquet greeting him, so his response was very casual. "Young Master Goof, my name is Yanran." After greeting him, Yanran didn't leave. Her face flushed slightly as she continued to introduce herself. "Do you need something?" Hearing this, Goof turned his head and asked casually, his tone indifferent. Goof's reaction gave Yanran a bit of a headache. Yanran feels nervous, emotional value plus 80 with the reputation of being the Misty Cloud sect's young sect leader and a genius of the Nellin family. She had always been successful in everything she did. If she needed help, she just had to make the first move, and others would eagerly offer their assistance. In all these years, Goof was the first to treat her so coldly. "I want to ask for your help." Normally, Yanran would have left impatiently by now, but Goof was the only person she knew who might be able to save Nellin, so she couldn't give up. She smiled and spoke, maintaining her composure despite Goof's indifferent reaction. She had never had to work so hard to get someone to help her before, especially not someone her own age in the Jiama Empire. Miss Nilan, perhaps it would be better to discuss these matters after the banquet. We wouldn't want to disrupt young Master Goof's mood. At that moment, a soft, alluring voice interrupted. It was Yif, who had come over with a wine glass in hand. Her seductive eyes fell on Goof as she smiled charmingly, her beautiful eyes sparkling as she clinked her glass with his before gracefully drinking. She tilted her head back, revealing an enticing neckline. Goof joined in the toast with a smile, drinking the wine in his glass. On the other side, the Empire's crown princess, Yayi, also approached Goof with a wine glass in hand. Young master, Yayi toasts you. Yayi's elegant and dignified face exuded a noble aura, her red lips curved in a smile. In terms of looks, she was in no way inferior to Yif. Seeing so many people surrounding Goof, Nilan Yanran hesitated for a moment. She also realized that she wasn't familiar with Goof, and now didn't seem to be the right time to ask for help. So, she decided to mingle and get to know him better first. These well-known women of the capital were usually aloof, but tonight, they were all actively approaching Goof. Even the crown princess, Yayi, and Nilan Yanran were no exception. Not far from Goof, Jia Yizyan watched the behavior of these women and immediately regretted coming to this banquet. She frowned slightly, feeling frustrated as she watched the beauties surrounding Goof while she looked out at the night sky. Jia Yixian feels regretful, emotional value plus 100 outside the banquet hall. Yun Yun quietly observed the scene but resisted the urge to approach. She knew that, being older than Goof, if she acted like the younger women, it would only invite ridicule. Soon, Nilan Yanran, having drunk a bit too much, felt her face flush slightly. At this moment, she was standing next to Goof, her eyes somewhat dreamy as she looked at him. Suddenly, she reached out and grabbed Goof's hand. Young Master Goof, I heard from my teacher that you possess a heavenly flame. Could you please save my grandfather? He's been suffering from the venom for a long time, and if he doesn't receive treatment soon, he won't last much longer. Speaking of her grandfather, Nilan Yanran's face showed sadness, and she gripped Goof's wrist a little tighter. But soon, she realized her actions were inappropriate, blushed, and quickly let go of Goof's hand. Life and death are natural. I am not related to your grandfather, so why should I save him? Goof knew Nilan Yanran's identity and was aware of what kind of person Nilanji was. He didn't want to get involved, so he shook his head and refused. Nilan Yanran feels nervous, emotional value plus 80 young Master Goof, as long as you're willing to help, I am willing to offer any reward. Nilan Yanran panicked, her eyes flickering as she quickly made an offer. But while this might have been enticing to others, Goof had no interest in accepting it. Sorry, I am not interested. He looked at Nilan Yanran for a moment and shook his head again, refusing her. Chapter 61, Do you think you're past your prime? Goof mercilessly rejected her request again and again. Even someone with the thickest skin would feel embarrassed at this point. Nilan Yanran, who was never the most composed to begin with, bit her lip, feeling deeply uncomfortable under the gaze of familiar faces around her. Nilan Yanran feels uneasy, emotion value plus 80 however, Goof was her only hope for saving her grandfather. She couldn't afford to lose her temper with him, so she simply looked at him with a pitiful expression. But Goof remained unfazed, his face calm as he continued chatting and laughing with those around him. He didn't even spare her another glance. Feeling utterly ignored, Nilan Yanran, now deeply embarrassed, scrunched her face in frustration and quickly fled the banquet hall. Yun Yun still sat quietly in her place, not having moved a muscle. She gently swirled the crimson wine in her glass, her cool and delicate face appearing even more flushed in the reflection of the red liquid. Nilan Yanran, like a butterfly, fluttered over and fell directly into Yun Yun's embrace. She lifted her flushed face, eyes slightly reddened, and with her lips tightly pressed together, she looked utterly aggrieved. Master, no matter how humble I made myself, young Master Goof refused to help. What should I do? She murmured, her eyes full of disappointment. Seeing Nilan Yanran in such a state, Yun Yun felt a deep pang of sorrow. She took a deep breath, slowly exhaled, and made a decision. Yun Yun resolved to ask Goof personally, fulfilling her duty as a master for her disciple. At the banquet, just as the guests were exchanging drinks, a battle suddenly broke out in the sky above the imperial capital. Goof glanced around and noticed that Jia Xingtian had disappeared long ago. After pondering for a moment, he realized that Jia Xingtian had probably discovered that Hai Bodong was still alive and couldn't resist fighting him. In the dark night sky, several beams of light shot across like meteors. Everyone was drawn to the intense battle and went to watch. The battle seemed to be taking place near the Imperial Mausoleum, a usually secluded area of the capital. Yet tonight, it had suddenly become the battleground for two Emperor experts. In the sky, two massive orbs of light, one white and one yellow, emitted terrifying auras. Within these light orbs, the silhouettes of two figures could be seen, clashing with each other. Every time the light orbs collided, a fierce wave of energy rippled outwards, turning the dark night over the mausoleum into a scene as bright as day. The white light orb carried an incredibly cold aura, freezing the moisture in the air into solid ice with every surge of energy. In contrast, the yellow light orb exuded a sense of solidity and steadiness, akin to the earth itself. Haha, old man of ice, I didn't expect that after all these years, your power would actually decline. Back in the day, your ice attacks were something I had to fear. But now, they have lost much of their bite. A loud, elderly voice laughed from within the yellow light orb after another fierce clash. Humphrey, old monster, you haven't made much progress either over the years. Given your age, it seems your time is running out. If you don't break through soon, your life will reach its limit. When that happens, without your protection, the Jiama imperial family won't be so comfortable anymore. The figure in the white light orb retorted coldly. Is that? Could it be the Ice Emperor? Someone in the crowd mentioned this once renowned figure of the Jiama Empire, causing everyone to look fearful. No one had expected the Ice Emperor, long thought dead, to not only be alive but to be able to fight evenly with Jialao. While the two fighters enjoyed their battle, Goof had no interest in watching them. Seeing that most of the guests had already left, he took the little fairy doctor and King Lin back to the palace. He had noticed little fairy doctor's gloomy mood early on, so he decided to leave the banquet early. During this time, the little fairy doctor and King Lin had been enjoying a life of luxury, something they had never experienced before. Both of them were very happy. After sending them back to their rooms and saying goodnight, Goof returned alone to the room Jia Xingtian had prepared for him. As he entered, he noticed a beautiful figure outside his door. Come in, he said. With his soul's sense, Goof had already encompassed the entire palace, so he knew someone was following him and that it was Yan Yan. With a wave of his hand, the door opened on its own. Goof, we meet again. I didn't expect to see you in the imperial capital, Yan Yan said as she stood at the doorway, still wearing the elegant evening gown that made her look both noble and alluring. She looked at Goof with a complicated expression. You saw me at the banquet earlier, didn't you? Why didn't you come over to say hello? Or do you think our acquaintance is something to be ashamed of? Goof teased as he looked at Yan Yan. He had already received a system notification earlier and had sensed Yan Yan's presence outside the banquet hall. However, this woman had stayed outside drinking alone, unwilling to come in and greet him. Yan Yan feels flustered, emotion value plus 100. No, I just thought that it was a gathering for young people, Yan Yan explained, her cheeks turning slightly red as she scrambled to clarify, surprised that Goof had noticed her. Why, sect leader Yan Yan, do you think you're past your prime? Goof raised an eyebrow, a faint smile playing on his lips as he continued to joke. Goof, do you really think that? Yan Yan feels disappointed, emotion value plus 100. Yan Yan's expression dimmed, a touch of sadness crossing her usually warm eyes. It was clear she cared deeply about Goof's opinion. Hee, I was just joking. Seeing her take his words seriously, Goof quickly smiled and explained, how could those young girls compare to you? In my eyes, your beauty and grace are like a celestial being descending to the moon. And it was true. Yan Yan's experience and poise far surpassed those young girls. Every time she appeared, the maturity and elegance she naturally exuded could capture everyone's attention. Yan Yan feels both embarrassed and shy, emotion value plus 100. After saying this, Goof continued, you're here because of Nell and Yanran, aren't you? Still feeling a mix of emotions from the earlier joke and Goof's compliment, Yan Yan glanced at him with a hint of resentment before lightly biting her lip and hesitating. Goof, please help Yanran. I know you have already helped me a lot, and I know this request is excessive, but if Yanran's grandfather dies, she will be devastated. She had watched Yanran grow up and genuinely wanted the best for her. Seeing Yanran so heartbroken, Yan Yan couldn't bear it. Since you have asked, I will help this time, Goof said after staring at Yan Yan for a moment before nodding in agreement to help. Chapter 62, What if I really intend to offer myself? Thank you. Goof. I really don't know how to thank you. Yan Yan feels extremely moved, emotion value plus 100. When Yan Yan saw that Goof agreed, a warm feeling surged in her heart, and her cold, beautiful face melted away. She knew that she owed Goof too much already. Are you planning to offer yourself as thanks? Seeing Yan Yan's current emotions, Goof couldn't help but tease her with a smile. Though Goof said it casually, Yan Yan's heart skipped a beat. Yan Yan feels flustered and shy, emotion value plus 150. A blush quickly spread across her delicate face, and she bit her lower lip, showing a somewhat flustered expression. However, looking at Goof's playful eyes, Yan Yan quickly realized he was joking. What if I really intend to offer myself? Yan Yan feels hopeful, emotion value plus 100. Yan Yan bravely responded to Goof's joke with one of her own for the first time, while also feeling a flicker of hope in her heart for his response. If an outsider were to witness this scene, they would be shocked. Who was Yun? Her cold, beautiful eyes had never shown any emotion. The usually serious and aloof sect master of the Misty Cloud sect was now saying such ambiguous words to a young man. Seeing Yun's somewhat serious expression, Goof narrowed his eyes. Alright, enough joking. I will visit the Nilan family first thing tomorrow morning. He smiled, ending the conversation simply. Yun feels disappointed, emotion value plus 100 without getting the response she hoped for. Yun's body stiffened, and she pulled back her gaze, forcing a smile. Alright, I will tell Yanran to be prepared. Late at night, Yun quietly entered Yanran's room to tell her that Goof had agreed to treat Ji. Really? Thank you, Master. Upon hearing the news, Yanran's eyes immediately reddened with gratitude. The next morning, Yanran urged Su, and the father and daughter pair, along with the family's guards, waited outside the palace early. It's all thanks to your master pleading for help this time. Otherwise, your grandfather wouldn't have lasted much longer. Outside the palace, a middle-aged man spoke excitedly to Yanran. Yes, I have a feeling that young Master Goof will surely be able to cure my grandfather. Yanran nodded. The father and daughter stood solemnly outside the palace gate. Soon, little fairy doctor and King Lin followed behind Goof as they walked out of the palace gate. Goof had already sensed the presence of the Nilan family members waiting outside the palace and walked towards them. Young Master Goof. My father and I are here to escort you to the Nilan residence. When Yanran saw Goof approaching, her beautiful eyes lit up, and she hurried forward to greet him. Yanran feels excited, emotion value plus 80. Goof then brought little fairy doctor and King Lin with him onto the carriage to the Nilan residence. Upon entering the main gate, they approached a luxurious hall at the end of a small path. Peering through the slightly ajar doors, they could see busy servants bustling about inside. Young Master Goof, my grandfather is in the side room of the main hall. This way, please. Yanran walked ahead of Goof by an arm's length, speaking in a low voice. As they slowly approached the side room, soft and warm lighting spilled out. Goof gently pushed open the door. The room was spacious, with a large bed at the center, where an elderly man with a withered face lay. Around the bed, several maids were busy attending to him. Hearing the door open, they glanced over before returning to carefully tend to the unconscious old man. As he moved closer to the bed, Goof's eyes scanned the old man lying there, noticing the faint gray-black hue on his face and the faint aura of death on his peacefully sleeping face. It's quite serious. Glancing at the old man's face, which seemed to be one step away from the grave, Goof murmured. Yes, the poison is so severe that even a Emperor wouldn't dare to touch it lightly. The old master has already reached his limit after all these years. Su, who had followed closely behind, sighed and shook his head before cautiously asking, Young Master Goof, do you think there's any hope for a cure? Nearby, Yanran nodded slightly, her bright eyes fixed on the tall, indifferent young man beside her. Su feels hopeful, emotion value plus 30. Yanran feels hopeful, emotion value plus 80. In Goof's perception, the poison had almost fused with Ji's bones, turning what should have been smooth white bones into an ominous black. He frowned and said bluntly, if an ordinary person tries to use heavenly flame to dispel the poison, there's a high chance he will be burnt to ashes. After all, even an emperor would be severely injured if touched by heavenly flame. Yanran feels shocked and disappointed, emotion value plus 80. This. Hearing Goof's words, Yanran became anxious, unsure of what to say. Goof glanced at her calmly, don't worry, I said that's for ordinary people. I have a way to cure him completely without any danger. The room fell into a brief, tense silence. Yanran feels hopeful, emotion value plus 80. Su feels hesitant, emotion value plus 30. Are you serious, young master? In that case, I thank young Master Goof in advance for saving my father's life. Yanran believed Goof's words without hesitation, knowing he was brought by Yun. Su, although unfamiliar with Goof's abilities, was reassured by his confident tone. Stand aside. Goof said calmly before curling his hand slightly, causing a stream of energy to lift Ji from the bed. He glanced casually at Ji. Despite years of poison eroding him, leaving his face even more haggard, there was still a trace of defiance, fitting his name. His left hand lightly tapped Ji's shoulder, and with a burst of force, the old man's clothes turned to dust, revealing a skeletal frame. Looking at this emaciated body, Goof's expression remained unchanged, while Yanran, standing nearby, already had tears welling up in her eyes. It was rare to see such mist in her usually bright eyes, making the usually dignified woman appear pitiful. Chapter 63, You liar. Didn't you say you would let go? Puff. As Goof extended his palm, a faint flame ignited spontaneously in his hand, causing the temperature in the room to rise rapidly. Goof flipped his hand, and the flame shot straight into Nelenji's body, covering a section of his blackened bones. Ah! On the bed, Nelenji, who had his eyes closed, suddenly opened them wide, and a hoarse, painful roar escaped his mouth. A surge of fierce energy, like a flash of strength before death, awakened within him. Grandfather! Seeing the suddenly alert and roaring elder, Nilan Yanran and Nelensu quickly called out in alarm. I am expelling the poison, there's no need to fear, Goof said calmly, glancing at the sweat-drenched Nelenji. Nelenji felt the searing flame within him, steadily burning away the parasitic poison entrenched in his bones. However, the flame was incredibly intense, and his body, already weakened, could hardly endure the treatment in one go. His face grew increasingly pale. Thank you, Master, please continue with all your strength, I can bear it. Understanding the situation, Nelenji gritted his teeth and urged Goof to proceed. Despite his determination, the pain was beyond his willpower, likely pushing him to the brink of unconsciousness. Seeing this, Goof casually took out a 5th-grade pill from his storage ring. This pill could restore vitality. After Nelenji consumed it, he felt rejuvenated, and his internal injuries began to heal rapidly. He cast a glance at Goof, his eyes full of amazement. Nelenji feels shock and gratitude. Emotional value plus 30. Thank you, Master, for the medicine. Nelenji expressed his gratitude. Goof then patiently controlled his heavenly flame, using his exceptional soul control ability to carefully burn the blackened bones back to their original jade-like whiteness. It's done, the poison in your body has been eradicated. Nelenji exhaled deeply. Indeed, there was no longer any black mist lingering in his breath. His complexion became rosy, and his eyes brightened. Nelenji feels gratitude. Emotional value plus 30. Master Goof, I cannot thank you enough. Nelenji, his voice resonant like a bell, immediately tried to kneel in thanks before Goof. Nilan Yanran's eyes had already turned red. Seeing her grandfather restored to health, she covered her mouth, tears of joy streaming down her face. Nilan Yanran feels gratitude. Emotional value plus 80. Nelensu feels gratitude. Emotional value plus 30. That's unnecessary. Goof waved his hand, using a gentle stream of chi to prevent Nelenji from kneeling. Master Goof, if you don't mind, could you stay at my residence for a few days? I would like to properly express my gratitude. Nelenji directly addressed Goof as master and spoke with great respect and courtesy. Since the matter here is resolved, I will take my leave. Goof declined Nelenji's invitation without hesitation. He knew Nelenji's ways well. While he might be thankful now, if Goof ever got into trouble, Nelenji would distance himself quickly. Huh? So soon? If Master Goof ever needs help in the future, please don't hesitate to come to me. Nelenji was momentarily stunned and tried to persuade him to stay, but seeing that Goof was unmoved, he swallowed his words and nodded with a smile. Meanwhile, Nilan Yanran had left the room earlier but now returned, holding a plant in a jade pot. As soon as this plant appeared, the entire room was filled with a faint and calming fragrance. Goof's gaze paused on the plant in her hands. The plant was entirely green, resembling a finely carved piece of jade. At the top, a flower with 7 colors was slowly blooming. As the flower unfurled, Goof was surprised to see that the 7 colors were gradually shifting, appearing extremely beautiful. Young Master Goof, my grandfather fought a magical beast back then and was poisoned because of this plant. It can restore soul strength. Since you are an alchemist, I believe it will be of use to you. I hope you won't refuse it. Nilan Yanran spoke humbly, holding the spiritual herb with both hands and offering it to Goof. All right. Goof nodded and accepted the 7 magical green spirit saliva without hesitation. This herb was indeed valuable to alchemists. After receiving the 7 magical green spirit saliva, Goof didn't wish to linger any longer. Soon, Nelenji led a group of people to escort Goof and his companions to the gate of the Nilan residence. Master Goof, I will repay this favor one day, Nelenji said in a serious tone, his expression solemn. Goof smiled and nodded, then turned and left without hesitation. A figure dressed in a light blue long dress, lightly biting her lower lip, watched Goof's departing figure with a faint gaze, lost in thought for a long time. Nilan Yanran feels curiosity. Emotional value plus 80. As one of the most gifted women in the Jiama Empire, this was the first time she had been so lightly regarded by a peer. However, the more indifferent Goof was, the more curious she became. Heroes are drawn to beauty, and likewise, beauties are drawn to heroes. Goof, being so exceptional, naturally attracted the attention of some young maidens, including perhaps her. On a mountain peak several hundred miles away from Jiama Imperial capital, a graceful figure stood on the peak, a young girl brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, a worried expression on her face. Soon, a figure landed beside her. Any news? Xun'er asked. Recently, She and Ling Ying had been searching everywhere for information, trying to find a spiritual herb that could restore soul strength for Zhao Yan. "Miss, I have found something. The Nelin family in Jiama Sacred City has a rare plant called the 7 magical green spirit saliva. Its root can be refined into an extremely profound liquid, which is the best medicine for restoring soul strength." Xun'er turned around quickly, her eyes filled with joy. However, Ling Ying's hesitant expression caught her attention. "What's wrong?" she asked, a bit nervous. "But that herb has already been taken by young Master Goof. The head of the Nelin family was poisoned, and they offered the herb to anyone who could cure him. Young Master Goof visited the Nelin family a couple of days ago. After that, Nelin Ji recovered, and the 7 magical green spirit saliva was given to young Master Goof. He took it?" Xun'er was surprised. How could it be such a coincidence? She had just been searching for a remedy to restore soul strength, only to learn that the herb had been taken by Goof. Xun'er lowered her gaze, frowning slightly, and murmured, "Didn't he say he had let go? But his actions now still seem to target me, targeting brother Zhao Yan." Chapter 64, Appearance of a Hun Clan Expert. Regarding the matter between Ms. Xun'er and young Master Goof, I should refrain from interfering. Hearing Xun'er's soft muttering, Ling Ying, who was standing nearby, hesitated for a moment before deciding not to respond. Although he felt that Goof might not have such intentions and that everything was just a coincidence, he chose to remain silent. Xun'er, not needing Ling Ying's agreement, gazed into the distance, pondering for a while, with a slight frown on her elegant face. After a moment, Xun'er sighed and said, "Whether Goof intentionally or unintentionally acquired the 7 magical green spirit saliva, I can't ask him for it." She understood that even if she did ask, Goof might not give it to her, so she wouldn't bother to humiliate herself. This meant she might have to return to her clan and rely on the Gu clan's resources to obtain the medicine needed to restore soul power. Since he has already taken it, we can only search elsewhere. On the mountaintop, the wind howled, lifting her long hair. The stray locks fluttering in the wind disturbed her thoughts, causing Xun'er to sigh softly before turning to leave. Meanwhile, in the skies above the border of the Jiama Empire, a shadow shrouded in eerie black mist suddenly paused, frowning. "This aura. It seems to be from the Gu clan. To think there are so many of them in this small corner of the Jiama Empire. It seems I shouldn't act rashly this time. I must avoid alerting the Gu clan, it's better to bide my time and act later." The shadow murmured, the surrounding black mist obscuring its figure. A flicker in its pitch-black eyes sent a shiver down one's spine. Even with Goof's current peaked ancestor's strength, he might not last a single round against this person. This individual was, after all, a true high-ranking member of the Hun clan, who had came to the Jiama Empire for a clan mission. However, before entering the Jiama Empire, he sensed a rather formidable aura that made even him wary. Moreover, he originally intended to sneak into the Empire to complete his mission. If he really entered, there was no guarantee he could leave unscathed. With a trace of venomous resentment flashing across his brow, he reluctantly abandoned his plan, paused in the air for a moment, then pretended to pass by, swiftly leaving without daring to glance back toward the Jiama Empire. Shortly after the Hun clan expert left, a white-robed elder suddenly appeared in the sky where he had lingered. This elder's aura was unfathomable, with a gleam of sharpness in his murky eyes. Soon after he arrived, another elder appeared beside him. A Hun clan member. Was he just passing by, or did he come here with a specific purpose? As they spoke, both frowned deeply. These 2 elders were sent by the Gu clan to protect Goof and Xun'er. When Goof and Xun'er had quietly left one after the other, the Gu clan's higher-ups had, of course, noticed. They understood that Goof was determined to go on his journey, so they did not stop him, even hoping he would find his opportunities. After all, life in the Gu realm was far too stable. Without pressure, where would the motivation come from? However, given that Goof was the most outstanding genius of the Gu clan, the higher-ups were naturally concerned about his safety during his journey. The elder's power was indeed terrifying, his ability to conceal his aura far surpassed Goof's. Even Goof had never noticed that he had been followed to the Jiama Empire. Forget it. Since young Master Goof is about to leave this small empire, as long as there is no threat to him, it has nothing to do with us. After a moment, one of the elders shook his head and slowly faded away. In the Jiama Royal Palace, within a grand hall. "Master Goof, please, teach me something. I truly admire you." A snow-white hand grasped Goof's sleeve, persistently pleading in a coquettish voice. The owner of the voice was a girl dressed in a purple robe embroidered with silver patterns. Her delicate features, cultivated by royal upbringing, exuded an innate noble air. She seemed not to be very old, always wearing a faint smile on her face, which added a touch of elegance and tranquility to her demeanor. However, when she pestered Goof to teach her alchemy, the seemingly demure girl's bright eyes would flash with a mischievous smile, indicating that she was not as quiet as she appeared. Taking on a disciple is impossible, but I do have a scroll of notes written by a 7th-grade alchemist. Feeling somewhat helpless at this lively girl's persistent requests, Goof shook his head and extended his hand, pulling out a scroll. Is this really a 7th-grade alchemist's notes? Xun'er feels happy, emotion value +50. The young princess's eyes curved into crescents, full of delight. Thank you, young Master Goof. She playfully smiled, took the notes handed to her by Goof, and turned to leave. Her purple robe fluttered like a butterfly, accompanied by her light laughter. This little rascal. Goof shook his head with a helpless smile. Then, he straightened up, gazing into the distant sky, a faint light flickering in his eyes. At that moment, he had already decided to leave the Jiama Empire. After all, there was nothing left here to make him stay. His only desire was to grow stronger. He had already made up his mind about his next destination while still in the Jiama Royal Palace. He planned to go to Jianan Academy to claim the fallen heart flame. As he was about to leave the capital of the Jiama Empire, the empire was once again stirred. Today, Yun, dressed in a rare light-colored long dress, appeared softer and less aloof than when they first met. Her cold eyes silently watched Goof. She knew that she could not keep this eagle by her side. The burden on her shoulders was too heavy for her to set everything aside and follow him. So, all Yun could do was cherish each encounter. Safe travels. Yun's lips curved into a gentle smile. Goof looked at her for a moment, then suddenly opened his arms. I am leaving. Don't you want to give me a hug? Yun feels hesitant and delighted, emotion value +100. Yun froze, her mind going blank for a moment. The tall young man smiled as he gently embraced the woman in front of him, politely keeping his hands on her shoulders. He whispered in her ear, you didn't resist, so I will take that as consent. Yun feels shy, emotion value +100. Yun was completely stunned, her expression unchanged, but her rapidly increasing heartbeat and a blush spreading across her cheeks betrayed her inner turmoil. Goof slowly released her and said, if fate allows, we may meet again. Perhaps when you have laid down your burdens, you will have time to find me. Yun feels reluctant, emotion value +100. Yun was still somewhat dazed, but the others had already stepped forward, one by one, to bid farewell to Goof. Young Master Goof, you're always welcome in the capital. Jia Xingtian laughed heartily. Hai Bodong, not one for words, simply nodded to Goof and said, until we meet again. Nelinji approached with a smile and said, young Master Goof, if you ever need help, don't hesitate to call on this old man. Nelinji feels grateful, emotion value +30. Hearing Nelinji's promise, Goof couldn't help but feel a bit amused. Nelin Yanran stood behind Nelinji, her gaze lingering on Goof. The usually bright and cheerful girl now had a hint of inexplicable reluctance in her eyes. Nelin Yanran feels reluctant, emotion value +80. Nearby, Yif smiled and waved, her thoughts unreadable. Everyone, we will be off then. After helping Jia Yizyan and King Lin onto the back of the Lion King, Goof turned and said, safe travels. Chapter 65, I am here for the heavenly flame. From the capital of the Jiama Empire to its western border, an ordinary person would need several months to complete the journey. However, the amethyst-winged Lion King, carrying Goof, Jia Yizyan, and King Lin, crossed the empire's borders in just a day. Crossing the Jiama border, the path to Jianan Academy required them to traverse dozens of countries and then cross the vast Black Corner region. Goof had already taken this route once, rushing all the way to the northwestern region. This time, however, with two companions, their pace was slower. On his initial journey, Goof had been too focused to appreciate the scenery. Now, with such lovely company, he decided to take his time, enjoying the leisurely pace. The journey was long, and their destination lay deep within the Black Corner region. Along the way, Goof casually introduced Jia Yizyan and King Lin to the region's situation. Due to its unique terrain, the Black Corner region has become one of the most chaotic areas on the continent, where countless fugitives from various nations establish the most barbaric rules. In the Black Corner region, there are no laws, only one rule: the law of the jungle. The weak have no right to survive. I never imagined that the Black Corner region would be such a chaotic place. Hearing Goof's explanation, Jia Yizyan couldn't help but frown. Having lived in Qingshan Town, she had experienced her share of disputes, but there was always some form of order. Her gentle and peaceful nature made her detest such chaos. King Lin, on the other hand, was less affected. Having grown up rejected by both humans and snake people, she was accustomed to hardship. As they approached the Black Corner region, Goof began to talk about Jianan Academy. Perhaps as a counterbalance to the chaos, there is a very peaceful place in the Black Corner region called Jianan Academy. Within a certain range of the academy lies a peaceful zone. It's said that anyone bringing chaos to this area will find themselves hanging from the death spirit tree at the Academy's boundary by the next day. Xun'er Academy must be a place that many in the Black Corner region long for. Both young ladies displayed a look of longing on their faces. Goof grinned broadly. Our next destination is that academy. Zhao Yizyan feels excited. Emotional value plus 100. King Lin feels happy. Emotional value plus 70. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yizyan's lips curled into a smile, and King Lin's eyes widened with excitement. It was a place they had never imagined they could reach before, a place even more enticing than the Jiama Imperial Palace. Soon, the Lion King flew into the Black Corner region, and Goof, Zhao Yizyan, and King Lin dismounted outside Black Mark City, planning to rest for the night. In this place, battles were frequent and without order, with street fights breaking out even on the main roads. Seeing the bloody brawls and the brutal energy attacks, even though Zhao Yizyan had heard Goof's descriptions, witnessing it firsthand left her somewhat stunned. She bit her lip, quickly turning away to meet Goof's gaze, her eyes full of disdain for the place. King Lin, frightened by the screams and shouts, hid behind Goof and Zhao Yizyan, too scared to look up. As a result, they spent the entire day in their inn-room, with no desire to explore. The next morning, Goof, Zhao Yizyan, and King Lin resumed their journey on the Lion King, heading directly for Xun'er Academy. Under Goof's command, the Lion King flew at full speed, reaching within 100 miles of the academy by the end of the day. Although outsiders were not allowed to fly in this area, Goof, with Zhao Yizyan and King Lin, let the Lion King continue. In the distance, nestled between two majestic mountains, Peace Town came into view. Roar! Roar! The Lion King approached swiftly, its massive form casting a shadow over the land, causing a stir in Peace Town. The Academy's enforcers quickly noticed the Lion King. Since a deadly battle between the Black Corner region and Xun'er Academy long ago, with the bodies of two kings and a emperor hanging on the Death Spirit tree at Peace Town's entrance, the area around the Academy had become a haven of peace, starkly contrasting the outside world. No powerful Black Corner region warrior dared to intrude with murderous intent. Even occasional disturbances were swiftly quelled, with the offenders ending up hanging on the tree. Over the years, the Death Spirit tree's reputation had spread throughout the Black Corner region. Thus, the Academy had not faced such an audacious intrusion in years. What a massive beast! On the ground, the enforcers were at a loss, and even their captain showed signs of panic. The situation is urgent, quickly report to the deputy headmaster. The patrol officers shouted. The enforcers on patrol had no way to stop the Lion King. Soon, Goof's view was dominated by a large city, prompting him to speak softly. Stop! The Lion King halted abruptly. At the same time, 7 or 8 figures swiftly emerged from the city. Narrowing his eyes, Goof sensed their strength, noting that even the weakest among them was only a 6-starred king. These were none other than the Outer Academy headmaster Hyuga and several other elders of the Outer Academy. Who are you, and why do you disregard Xun'er Academy's no-fly rule? The one who spoke was Hyuga, a peaked emperor. Although Goof's ride on a 6th-tier magical beast and his disregard for the rules suggested a significant background, Hyuga, with his vast experience and strength, suppressed his shock and asked seriously. Behind Hyuga, the elders and enforcers of the Outer Academy stood ready, watching Goof with some apprehension. Standing atop the Lion King's head, Goof looked down at Hyuga and spoke calmly. My name is Goof. I heard the Academy possesses a heavenly flame, so I came to take a look. Goof did not conceal his purpose, speaking bluntly. With his current strength at the peak of the Dancester, on the verge of breaking through to a Venerate, no one before him could pose a challenge. Thus, there was no need for any trickery or pretense to infiltrate the Academy. Chapter 66, Did I hear that right? The elder called this kid Senior? Hukion felt displeased, emotional value plus 30, so, you're here for the heavenly flame. Hyuga frowned, clearly displeased. This audacious young man, who appeared out of nowhere, not only ignored the Academy's no-fly rule but also brazenly rode a flying magical beast straight into the premises. To top it off, his first words were about taking Xun'er Academy's most prized possession. Anyone would be angered by this. However, in the next moment, his tightly furrowed brows were forced to relax, his eyes full of shock. Just after Goof finished speaking, he slightly narrowed his eyes, and a fleeting, playful smile tugged at the corners of his lips as he directly revealed his Dancester cultivation level. Hyuga felt shocked. Emotional value plus 30. The oppressive aura, akin to facing a fierce beast, was so overwhelmingly powerful that even Hyuga's body stiffened, his expression froze, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The sensation was even more intense for those behind him, whose cultivation levels were far inferior. This absolute, irresistible pressure reminded Hyuga of the two extremely mysterious guardians of Xun'er Academy. This person's aura seems even more terrifying than those two seniors. In Hugan's memory, the two guardians, one clad in black and the other in white, always had their faces hidden under long hoods, revealing only their chins and tightly pressed lips. Their unfathomable presence was something Hukion had never dared to test. He only recalled how every time the library pavilion was opened, the brief appearance of those two guardians left an indelible impression on him. However, the mysterious young man before him now exuded an aura that was even more potent and oppressive than the two guardians. A strong individual of this caliber was at least at the peak of ancestor, possibly even having stepped into the venerate realm. His gaze became more serious, and his tone turned respectful. Hugan felt reverence, emotional value plus 30, faced with such a formidable individual, he dared not neglect him or pry into Goof's background. Instead, he asked with great respect, "Senior, have you come here just to see the heavenly flame?" Among cultivators, the strong are always respected. Even though Hugan was in the prime of his life and Goof looked like just a youth, he dared not show the slightest disrespect. Using such a respectful tone and even addressing Goof as senior, no one present, including Zhao Yixian and King Lin, found anything amiss. After a moment of contemplation, Goof spoke directly. "If the heavenly flame satisfies me, I will take it with me. Of course, I won't let the academy suffer a loss. I will provide compensation that will not be less valuable than the heavenly flame." If Hugan hadn't sensed Goof's formidable strength, he would have been furious upon hearing these words. After all, the heavenly flame was the lifeblood of the academy. However, just sensing Goof's aura made it clear to him that opposing such a strong individual would be a foolish endeavor, likely resulting in a miserable outcome. Nonetheless, as the Outer Academy headmaster, Hugan was acutely aware of the importance of the heavenly flame to Jianan Academy. Hugan felt hesitation, emotional value plus 30 therefore, he nearly gritted his teeth as he hesitated for a long time before finally mustering the courage to speak to Goof. "Senior, this matter is of great importance. May I request that we discuss it further? In the meantime, perhaps you could rest in Jianan City." The heavenly flame was far too crucial to the academy. If necessary, the academy would not hesitate to offend a strong individual, even one at the peak of Dancester, to protect it. "I will give you 2 days. In 2 days, I hope to receive a satisfactory response." Goof was not in a hurry and answered calmly. After all, the heavenly flame was securely locked away and couldn't escape, so there was no need for him to act aggressively. Following Goof's instructions, the Lion King flew alone to a suitable spot outside Peace Town to rest. Meanwhile, Goof, with a visibly curious Zhao Yixian and King Lin, entered the Jianan city. Before departing, Hukion respectfully inquired, "Senior, would you like an elder from the academy to accompany you?" Goof lightly shook his head and then proceeded ahead. "Brother Goof, this Jianan city truly lives up to its reputation as the birthplace of the oldest academy on the continent. Just its name alone attracts countless people here." Walking down the wide stone-paved street, Zhao Yixian marveled at the bustling crowds and the happiness radiating from their faces. The lively atmosphere impressed her, as even the imperial capital of the Jiama Empire couldn't compare to this. She widened her eyes, curiously taking in the surroundings. The city's vibrancy, which surpassed even the imperial capital, left Zhao Yixian in awe. Street vendors were everywhere, enthusiastically calling out to customers. In this city, merchants could conduct their business without fear of being robbed, unlike other parts of the Black Corner region, making it a very safe place. However, as they approached the city center, they noticed that the vendors on one street were different from those on other streets. Perhaps due to its proximity to Jianan Academy, most of the stalls on this street displayed items like techniques, cultivation methods, and pills. "I wonder what the academy looks like inside." Zhao Yixian stood in the middle of the street, her gaze fixed on the ancient gates of the academy, filled with curiosity. Seeing the longing in Zhao Yixian's eyes, Goof chuckled and then led her and King Lin toward the entrance. At the outer gate of the academy, guards were posted. When they saw the unfamiliar faces of Goof and the others, they were about to stop them. "Hold on." A voice suddenly called out from behind. The guard turned to see that it was an elder from the outer academy. The guard then watched in astonishment as the elder naturally led Goof inside the inner academy. "Senior, this way, please." The outer academy guard felt surprised, emotional value plus 1. "Did I hear that right? Did Elder Mew just call that kid senior?" This scene left the guard at the gate completely shocked. He never expected that an elder from the outer academy would address a young man as senior. Goof leisurely followed the outer academy elder, completely ignoring the shocked expression of the guard. Zhao Yixian caught sight of the guard's stunned face and couldn't help but giggle. King Lin, however, didn't quite understand the situation and looked at Zhao Yixian in confusion before obediently following Goof, her large green snake eyes curiously scanning her surroundings. As soon as they entered the outer academy, Goof spoke to the elder, "There's no need to guide us further, we will just explore on our own." Having an outer academy elder accompany them would draw attention wherever they went. While Goof didn't mind others' stares, it would definitely interfere with their tour of the academy. Chapter 67, Are All Men Like This? Alright, then I won't disturb you, senior. Elder Mu respectfully clasped his hands in salute before departing. Once Elder Mu left, Zhao Yizyan felt more at ease and excitedly spoke up, "Brother Goof, so this is what the academy looks like? It really seems nice." Her gaze swept over many students who were seriously engaged in discussions, their bodies surrounded by surging chi, looking quite focused. Kinglin, full of envy, expressed her simple wish aloud. "Brother Goof, I want to attend Jianan Academy in the future too." The atmosphere within the academy, although still competitive, was far more pure compared to other places. This kind of atmosphere was something Zhao Yizyan and Kinglin had never experienced before, leading them to feel a strong sense of yearning. The three of them continued to leisurely stroll around the outer courtyard. Before long, Goof noticed 7 or 8 male students gathered ahead, loudly discussing something. As Goof and his group approached, they naturally overheard the topic of their conversation. However, the content of the discussion made Zhao Yizyan unconsciously furrow her brows. "Look, that's Xiaoyu. Those legs are truly something." Goof and Zhao Yizyan followed the voice and saw a beautiful woman dressed in academy attire walking down a corridor. The woman had a sword strapped to her waist and a tall, graceful figure, but what caught the most attention were her smooth, long legs. Even the seductive youth couldn't compare to these legs. The warm sunlight shone upon them, making them gleam like white jade or snow, almost blindingly white. Those long legs, moving with a gentle grace, had a soft, delicate texture, like the finest jade. Those legs really are something. Seeing such exceptional legs, even the usually calm and composed Goof couldn't help but internally praise them, his gaze lingering for a moment longer. Are all men like this, unable to move when they see a beautiful woman? Zhao Yizyan, noticing the male students' gazes and crude remarks, quickly understood who they were talking about and disdainfully pursed her lips, whispering softly. At this moment, she hadn't yet noticed Goof's brief pause. As the tall woman approached, another figure quickly rushed forward, a young woman in red clothing. Her face, though not exceptionally beautiful, was radiant with a bright smile, and her brown hair was tied into a casual ponytail. Her figure was almost voluptuous. Her slim waist and rounded, perky hips were perfectly proportioned, making her even more alluring. Although her looks were slightly inferior to the first woman, her fiery and extremely voluptuous figure was enough to make any man drool. When she arrived, many men nearby couldn't help but discreetly glance at her. "Wow, Zuni seems even more attractive than Xiaoyu. You said it. That waist, that figure, it's perfect?" Listening to the male student's comments, Zhao Yizyan was a bit speechless and wrinkled her nose in disapproval. Ugh, these people are really something. She shook her head, realizing that when male students gathered in the academy, they really did talk about anything. Goof raised an eyebrow but wasn't surprised. In his previous life, when he was a student on Earth, his male classmates had the same habits, gathering together to admire beautiful scenery, sharing their thoughts without holding back. "Ah, Brother Goof, you're looking over there too." Zhao Yizyan feels displeased. Emotional value plus 100. Suddenly, Zhao Yizyan noticed that Goof was also looking in that direction. Instantly, she walked over angrily, grabbed his sleeve, and dragged him away. Kinglin, still too young to understand what was happening, followed behind them, puzzled. She wondered why Zhao Yizyan suddenly pulled Goof away. Are those three also academy students? Why haven't I seen them before? I haven't seen them either. They probably aren't students. How did they get in? At this moment, the group of male students finally noticed Goof and his companions as they were leaving. None of the three were wearing academy uniforms. Male student feels suspicious. Emotional value plus 0.1. Their gazes fell on Goof and the two girls beside him, filled with suspicion. Especially when they saw Zhao Yizyan and Kinglin, jealousy flared in one of the male students. He shouted loudly, "Who are you three? How did you get into the academy?" Male student feels jealous. Emotional value plus 0.1. Goof remained calm and unfazed. He knew that concealing his aura might attract some small troubles, but why bother dealing with them? Let's go somewhere else. Goof directly ignored the student and quietly suggested to Zhao Yizyan and Kinglin. "Stop. You." Male student feels displeased. Emotional value plus 0.1. The student, feeling ignored and embarrassed, raised his voice even more. Annoying. But before he could finish his sentence, he was suddenly struck by an immense force, sending him flying and crashing heavily to the ground. As the dust settled, the student coughed and winced in pain, struggling to get back on his feet. Outer academy student feels shocked. Emotional value plus 0.1. The others were stunned, unable to see how Goof had acted, and stood frozen in place. Not far away, Zhao Yu and Zuni both turned their attention to Goof, their eyes filled with curiosity. Zhao Yu feels curious. Emotional value plus 50. Zuni feels curious. Emotional value plus 30. Goof and his group continued on their way, and no one dared to stop them again. Not long after, a student who had seen Elder Mu respectfully guiding Goof around the academy hesitantly spoke up. Just now, I saw an elder respectfully inviting them into the outer academy, even calling that man senior. Everyone was left in shock, their minds blank. Could it be they had just offended the wrong person? That evening, Goof, Zhao Yixian, and King Lin chose not to stay in Jianan Academy. Instead, they stayed in a busy inn in the city. The inn was lively, and Zhao Yixian and King Lin, having changed into new clothes, spent the entire evening happily exploring the bustling streets. It wasn't until the moon was high in the sky that they reluctantly followed Goof back to the inn. Meanwhile, in the cover of night, 3 figures flew towards Jianan City from the distant mountains. The one leading them had no chi wings and was walking on air, clearly a Dancester. This person was Sukion, the first elder of the Jianan Academy, and the only openly recognized Dancester expert of the academy. Chapter 68. Even if Meng Tiankai was here, so what? Ever since Sukion received Hugan's message from the outer academy, his expression had remained extremely serious. He had speculated about Goof's identity, but with his knowledge, how could he recognize the #1 genius of the Gu clan, Goof? At this moment, he was rushing towards Jianan City with several elders, without stopping, after departing from the inner academy. If that person didn't use force, it's likely out of consideration for the old headmaster, which means there's still room for negotiation. Sukion silently calculated in his mind. Because if the person who came to claim the heavenly flame was truly as strong as Hugan's message suggested, even if they rushed over, they could only argue based on reason. Resistance would be of little use. After all, they were dealing with someone at least at the peak of the Dancester level. Sukion was now only a 2-starred ancestor. How could he possibly be a match? The next morning, Goof, along with Zhao Yixian and King Lin, walked to the entrance of the Jianan Academy's outer academy, intending to enter once more. At this time, a group of people dressed in the elders' robes of Jianan Academy approached from the opposite direction. The leading middle-aged man had a serious face with a polite smile, but there was a hint of worry hidden in his eyes. Sukion has developed feelings of hesitation, emotional value plus 50. He lightly furrowed his brow, then quickly relaxed it, pausing his steps momentarily. The reason was simple. Goof looked too young, completely different from the formidable individual described in Hugan's message who was likely at the generate level. Goof, upon hearing the system's prompt, subtly lifted his gaze, meeting Sukion's eyes directly. Caught off guard by those deep, calm black eyes, Sukion's heart suddenly skipped a beat. His keen senses told him that the seemingly ordinary young man before him was extremely dangerous. A faint voice came from behind him. "Great Elder, this is the senior I mentioned." Hearing Hugan's words, Sukion subtly nodded and retracted his gaze, no longer harboring any doubts. He then quickly walked over and respectfully towards Goof, greeting him. Goof raised an eyebrow. This great elder of the inner academy had a decent demeanor, not doubting the message from Hugan just because of his young age. Cautiously looking directly at Goof, Sukion asked, "Senior, have you truly come for the heavenly flame?" Goof casually glanced at him, his fingertips slightly twitching, then nodded with an air of dominance, his eyes full of determination, as if it was already his. "Indeed. Senior, you must be aware of how crucial that flame is to our inner academy." Sukion frowned, hesitated for a moment, then spoke tactfully. The fallen heart flame could release heart flame, assisting in refining chi, essentially a cheat for cultivation. It was suppressed beneath the blazing sky chi refining tower, continuously providing support for Jianan Academy, serving as the foundation of the inner academy. Sukion, as the great elder of the inner academy, was naturally most aware that without the fallen heart flame, the inner academy would not be able to nurture talents as it currently did and would gradually decline. If the inner academy were to decline, and the outside world learned of this, it was uncertain whether Jianan Academy could remain in the Black Corner region. Because of this, Sukion had been unwilling to compromise. "I am fully aware of the importance of the fallen heart flame to your academy, but as I have said before, after taking the heavenly flame, I will provide compensation so that your inner academy won't suffer any loss." Goof nodded again, speaking frankly. The compensation he could offer would certainly not be inferior to the fallen heart flame. "Senior, although the fallen heart flame can accelerate cultivation, it may not be of much use to someone like you, and refining a heavenly flame is fraught with danger." Sukion's tone remained polite, still trying to keep the fallen heart flame within the academy. Indeed, for Goof, who was at the peak of Dancester and on the verge of entering Venerate. The enhancement to cultivation speed provided by the Fallen Heart Flame would be of little benefit at most, a minor boost. However, the danger of refining the Heavenly Flame, which Sukion mentioned, was nothing to Goof. You need not worry about that, a mere Fallen Heart Flame is within my ability to handle. Goof raised his eyebrows, confidently stating his position, refusing to yield. Sukion has developed feelings of difficulty, emotional value +20. Sukion sighed, then decided to take a step back to advance. Senior, since you are so confident, we can't say much more. However, that Heavenly Flame was left by our old headmaster, we do not have the authority to handle it. He paused his words. Sukion knew that their old headmaster, Mangekyō, was an absolute Venerate expert. Although he left the Fallen Heart Flame and then departed, rarely managing Jianan Academy's affairs, preferring to travel the world, his name still held sway over the entire Black Corner region. If the Heavenly Flame is lost, we won't be able to explain it to the old headmaster. Sukion continued, bringing up the old headmaster to try and cause Goof some hesitation. But how could Goof be afraid? With his status, even if Mangekyō were here, he would still dare to claim the Heavenly Flame. After all, the Fallen Heart Flame is not highly ranked on the Heavenly Flames list, and at a level of half-saint and above, such a Heavenly Flame would be of little use. Senior Mangekyō left the Heavenly Flame in the Inner Academy to create a distinctive school. Since I said I won't let the Inner Academy suffer, I mean it. Goof directly mentioned the old headmaster's name, with no sign of fear in his voice. Lead the way. Sukion opened his mouth, wanting to say more, but was interrupted by Goof's next words. He frowned but said nothing further. Goof's fingers twitched, and his chi surged. Immediately, a familiar massive figure flew over from not far away. The vast shadow cast by it caused many in Jianan City to exclaim in surprise. Goof gave an order, and the massive amethyst-winged Lion King flew directly over Jianan City. Goof held Zhao Yixian's slender waist, took King Lin along, and in front of the Inner Academy elders and Sukion, stepped into the air. His figure shifted, stepping directly into the void and landing on the lion's back without any assistance. Initially, the elders behind Sukion were still discussing intensely, with many doubting whether Goof was truly as terrifyingly strong as Hyuga had described, possibly even far surpassing Sukion. But Goof's ability to walk in the air silenced all the elders, eliminating any doubts about his strength. On the ground, Sukion and Hyuga exchanged a glance, both sighing helplessly. Judging by Goof's forceful demeanor, it seemed that no matter how they tried to negotiate, Goof was determined to take the Fallen Heart Flame. Since Goof was still polite enough to inform them, they couldn't afford to risk offending such a peaked ancestor expert by refusing him. After a moment of hesitation, Sukion, Hyuga, and the others had no choice but to agree and then began leading the way ahead of Goof. The amethyst-winged Lion King followed behind the large group, flying out of the city. Chapter 69, Zhao Yixian's Resolve. Plus updated schedule. The reason Goof was spending time in Jianan City instead of directly taking the Fallen Heart Flame, as he had with the Sea Heart Flame, was because he wasn't entirely sure of the exact location of the Inner Academy. Additionally, Jianan City had some unique features that made it worthwhile to explore with Zhao Yixian and King Lin to experience the local culture. Of course, if he really wanted to find the Inner Academy, he could have, but that would have been a waste of time. Having someone from the Inner Academy personally guide him was much more convenient. The Inner Academy was located deep in the vast mountains behind Jianan City, a place unknown to ordinary people. The dense forest was filled with various magical beasts. Even from high in the sky, they could see many strange and bizarre creatures below. If an ordinary person were to venture in, they would have to fight their way through just to reach the Inner Academy. However, under the intimidating presence of the amethyst-winged Lion King, few beasts dared to challenge them. After flying for about half an hour, Sukion and Hyuga stopped. Sukion glanced back at Goof. Sensing something, Goof commanded the Lion King to halt abruptly. Are we there? Zhao Yixian and King Lin looked ahead, scanning their surroundings carefully. However, all they saw was an endless stretch of greenery and a deep, bottomless ravine below. There was no sign of the Inner Academy, not even a single person in sight. They both turned to Goof in confusion. Zhao Yixian feels puzzled, emotional value +100. King Lin feels puzzled, emotional value +70. There's a spatial seal up ahead, Goof explained with a smile. Shortly after Goof finished speaking, Sukion descended slightly and walked forward a dozen steps in midair. Then, he paused, waved his hand, and an energy beam shot out, striking what appeared to be empty space in front of him. Immediately, a strange sight unfolded as ripples, like those on the surface of water, spread out. These ripples quickly coalesced, and a large, 26 meters tall, silver door materialized out of thin air. Seeing the door suddenly appear, Zhao Yizyan and King Lin were both startled, their eyes filled with amazement. "Brother Goof, is that the spatial seal?" King Lin asked excitedly. The seal was indeed mysterious, and King Lin, unable to contain her curiosity, moved closer to get a better look. For the door to suddenly appear in an empty space was something even Zhao Yizyan found remarkable. Clearly, neither of them had expected such a secret to be hidden in such an ordinary place. With a light wave of his hand, Sukion opened the silver door, which creaked as it revealed the scene beyond. The area behind the door appeared to be just as densely forested as the one in front of it, almost indistinguishable. It was truly incredible. What you saw with your eyes might not always be real. Goof had noticed the peculiarity of this place from the start. Zhao Yizyan's face remained calm, but her eyes burned with determination. King Lin's eyes were filled with anticipation. Both women, inspired by what they had witnessed, were more motivated than ever to improve their own strength. Zhao Yizyan, who wasn't particularly skilled in cultivation, now found herself longing for greater power, wanting to become stronger so she wouldn't hold Goof back. After the spatial door opened wide, Sukion called out, "Senior, please follow me." The inner academy members sped up, flying through the door. Goof, without hesitation, ordered the Lion King to follow Sukion through the spatial gate. Even if Sukion had any tricks up his sleeve, Goof wasn't worried. Unless the academy's old headmaster, Mangekyō, took action himself, there was no one in Jianan Academy who could stop Goof. They continued flying for some time. After crossing a high ridge, a massive sunken basin came into view below them. Seeing the shape of the basin, Zhao Yizyan was once again struck with awe. The basin didn't look like it had formed naturally from geological activity. Instead, it resembled a giant crater formed by a meteor crashing to the earth. From a distance, the basin was filled with towering buildings. Looking down from above, one could barely make out tiny figures flitting around the structures like fleas. As she continued to look ahead, Zhao Yizyan noticed that the basin was extraordinarily large. Her vision reached its limit, but all she could see were more tall buildings and lush greenery. It was almost impossible to imagine that such a hidden wonder existed deep in the mountains behind Jianan Academy. "I can sense the aura of the fallen heart flame." Upon reaching this point, Goof could clearly detect the aura of the fallen heart flame. He lifted his chin, signaling the Lion King to fly toward the northern part of the inner academy. Before Sukion could give directions, he noticed the Lion King heading in the right direction. He shook his head, sighed, and followed once more. A massive flying magical beast soared over the inner academy. Goof didn't bother concealing their presence, allowing the Lion King to fly boldly toward their destination. The commotion naturally caught the attention of many people. Within the inner academy, numerous students looked up in shock, their gazes fixed on the amethyst-winged Lion King with astonishment. Goof suppressed his aura and enveloped Zhao Yizyan and King Lin in a protective shield, concealing their presence. As a result, the students couldn't detect the three figures riding on the Lion King. They simply assumed it was a high-level magical beast with intelligence. Though the Lion King's oppressive aura was frightening, and its fierce approach was intimidating, many students instinctively prepared to fight. However, they noticed that Elder Sukion had entered the inner academy first, followed closely by the beast. It was clear that Sukion was guiding it. The students didn't think the amethyst-winged Lion King was there to attack. They gathered in groups, curiously watching the beast's retreating figure, wondering who it belonged to and why Elder Sukion was personally guiding it. Following Goof's instructions, the Lion King landed in an open space in front of a black tower. In their view was an enormous, peculiar black tower, buried deep underground, with only the tip and a dark entrance visible above ground. A tower buried underground? How strange. Zhao Yizyan's face was filled with even more astonishment at the sight. Chapter 70, Little Xian. The black tower was deeply buried underground, with only part of its tip and a pitch-black entrance visible. Goof's gaze fell on the tip of the tower. He could clearly see the air around the tower subtly trembling, with the space appearing slightly distorted and wrinkled. It seems that this seal was set up by Senior Mangekyō when he left, Goof murmured to himself. Although he knew that Mangekyō's current cultivation might have reached the level of a half-saint, the Mangekyō who set up this seal years ago was likely just an ordinary venerate. A seal left by an ordinary venerate, while once strong, had weakened over time. If the seal hadn't weakened, the fallen heart flame wouldn't have broken out of the tower years later in the original story. With Goof's current peaked ancestor's strength, breaking this seal wouldn't be difficult. At this moment, due to Goof's arrival, the surrounding students stood in place, their gazes filled with shock, confusion, and uncertainty. Inner Academy student feels shock, emotion points +1. Inner Academy student feels confusion, emotion points +1. The shock was due to Goof's overly young appearance, combined with the unusually respectful attitude of Elder Sukion, and the massive magical beast, the amethyst-winged Lion King, Behind him, the Lion King retracted its wings, towering over the students, its humanoid eyes observing these so-called geniuses of the northwestern region, causing a wave of awe. Some students were puzzled, wondering why, when many were cultivating in the Blazing Sky Chi refining tower, Elder Sukion would bring a stranger here. Goof remained motionless, surveying the surrounding Inner Academy students who were whispering among themselves. Elder Sukion, you should first evacuate the students cultivating in the tower. Otherwise, they might be harmed by the heart flame when I take action later, Goof said directly. Hearing this, Sukion, though reluctant, pressed his lips together and complied. In the original story, when Han Feng brought a group of strongmen from the Black Corner region to seize the Heavenly Flame, Sukion and Hyuga did their best to stop them. Although there was a bloody battle with heavy casualties, they eventually managed to stop Han Feng's group. That was because Han Feng's group didn't even have a real ancestor, relying on gold-silver twin brothers working together to hold back Sukion. The gap between the two sides wasn't large. But with Goof's peaked ancestor strength, it wasn't a matter of numbers defeating him. The Jianan Academy people wouldn't dare to resist. Knowing that everyone would only be sending themselves to their deaths, who would be willing to fight to the end? All students, evacuate the Blazing Sky Chi refining tower immediately. The next moment, many Inner Academy students who had been diligently refining their chi with heart flame in their closed cultivation room simultaneously heard Sukion's urgent call. What's going on? On the 6th floor of the Blazing Sky Chi refining tower, a tall and upright young man stepped out of his cultivation room. Although this young man was only 22 years old, the resolute look on his face made him appear mature. Not far from his cultivation room, another young man, who looked elegant and refined, also had a puzzled expression. This 6th floor was where the top students of the Inner Academy's strong ranking cultivated. These two were Liu King and Lin Ziuya, both top-ranked students. Let's go out and see what's happening. Lin Ziuya and Liu King walked together, quickly heading outside the tower. Upon reaching the ground, both Liu King and Lin Ziuya's gazes fell on Goof simultaneously. Goof looked very young, even younger than them by a few years. However, when Sukion spoke to him, there was evident respect in his eyes. Lin Ziuya feels curiosity, emotion points +20. Liu King feels curiosity, emotion points +20. Both Liu King and Lin Ziuya were from Central Plains, and in terms of talent and strength, they had always been considered geniuses, the absolute elites among the Inner Academy students. Lin Ziuya, without showing any emotion, moved closer to the nearby students, listening to their conversations. His eyes couldn't hide the shock. I heard he was brought here by the Grand Elder himself to retrieve the Heavenly Flame. How is that possible? That thing is so important to the Inner Academy, and this person is so young. Why would the Grand Elder agree to this? Didn't you see that flying magical beast behind him? I was lucky to see it earlier. This senior was flying through the air, and from the Grand Elder's demeanor, it's clear that his strength far surpasses the Grand Elder's. Liu King feels surprise, emotion points +10. Lin Ziuya feels shock, emotion points +10. Liu King and Lin Ziuya's pupils contracted slightly. Goof looked so young, yet he already possessed at least ancestor-level strength. The Inner Academy's top-ranked students, who were usually proud and aloof, all showed expressions of surprise. This person cannot possibly be as young as he appears. Not even the great powers in Central Plains could nurture such a monster, one person thought to himself, unable to believe that such a prodigy could exist in the world. Goof's gaze slowly swept over the Inner Academy students before suddenly stopping on a little girl in white who only reached his waist. The little girl appeared to be only about 12 or 13 years old, with light purple hair cascading down to her waist. Her cheeks were extremely fair and tender, and her features were delicate like a carved jade doll, making her look very cute. At that moment, the little girl who had just walked out of the tower was also curiously looking at Goof with her big, black, and sparkling eyes. Ziyan feels curiosity, emotion points +100. Receiving the emotion value prompt, Goof's eyes lingered for a moment, confirming that this little girl in white was indeed Ziyan. Elder Sukion, your Inner Academy even has such a young student, and her cultivation is quite impressive. She's not human, is she? Goof asked with a smile, clearly referring to Ziyan. Sukion feels shock, emotion points +30. Seeing that Goof had recognized Ziyan's non-human identity at a glance, Sukion was even more surprised. Indeed, she's not human. Sukion nodded but didn't elaborate further. I sense a familiar aura from her, as if she's from a certain magical beast family. But I wonder why a member of that family would end up in the northwestern region, Goof said with a slight smile, intentionally hinting. Are you saying you know her origins? Sukion asked, surprised. Yes, Goof nodded. If that's the case, that would be wonderful. This little one has always wanted to grow up and understand her origins. Sukion smiled faintly, genuinely wishing the best for Ziyan, hoping she could understand her origins and focus on her cultivation. We will discuss this after I retrieve the fallen heart flame. Seeing that the inner academy students had all exited the tower, Goof shook his head, then turned to Zhao Yixian and King Lin, saying, "You two wait here, I will be back soon." Goof instructed them to stay in place and then cast a protective seal around them before heading inside. Chapter 71, Subduing the Fallen Heart Flame. After setting up the seal, Goof walked into the tower at a slow pace under the watchful eyes of everyone. Although the heart flame was forming in his heart, it did not affect him in the slightest. Sukion, the Grand Elder of the Inner Academy, followed closely behind Goof, still harboring a trace of concern in his eyes. Sukion feels worried. Emotional value plus 30 next, Goof descended layer by layer, with only Sukion following behind. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the empty tower. Before long, the two of them reached the center of the final floor of the Blazing Sky Chi Refining Tower. Here, just like the previous floors, there was a black hole connected to the next level. However, the black hole on this final floor led to the very bottom of the tower. Above this black hole, there was a noticeable spatial fluctuation. It was this seal that had kept the fallen heart flame suppressed. "Break!" Goof softly shouted, raising his arm. A strange beam of light shot out from his fingertip and struck the spatial seal. The air trembled violently for a moment, and as the dust settled, the seal had been broken. This seal, which had been strong enough to withstand the fallen heart flame's onslaught for years, was now easily shattered by Goof. Sukion feels surprised. Emotional value plus 30. Sukion once again updated his understanding of Goof's strength. With the seal broken, the sensation of the heart flame instantly intensified. The temperature of the air rapidly increased, becoming much hotter. Visibly, the air began to distort. Suddenly, the once calm energy in the area boiled over like water, with muffled sounds faintly heard. Sukion feels suspicious. Emotional value plus 30. Sensing the terrifying aura emanating from the bottom of the tower, Sukion's eyes flashed with suspicion once again. He wasn't doubting Goof's strength but rather that the fallen heart flame was truly fearsome. "Senior, are you really confident in subduing the fallen heart flame? If we release this thing, with the hatred it harbors toward our inner academy, it will destroy us all," Sukion asked solemnly, his brows furrowed. Though things had reached this point, they still had time to retreat. With Goof's strength, resealing this place would still hold for a long time. However, having come this far, Goof wouldn't be satisfied with retreating out of fear. "Subduing a mere fallen heart flame is no big deal. Just watch." Goof responded with a dismissive smile, his tone seemingly arrogant, but Sukion could sense the confidence in his voice. That kind of confidence stemmed from his strength. Without further ado, Goof immediately flashed into the black hole. Sukion feels worried. Emotional value plus 30. After Goof descended a certain distance, the previously pitch-black depths of the hole began to reveal some scenery. It was a vast sea of magma. However, the magma here was distinctly dark red, much darker than ordinary magma, as if it were mixed with countless drops of blood. The entire sea of magma exuded an eerie color. Goof's figure hovered above the sea of magma, his gaze suddenly focusing on a certain spot. There, a violent and overwhelming energy was slowly emerging from the depths of the magma. As this violent energy surged, the tranquility of the magma world was shattered. A fierce wind seemed to arise from nowhere, whipping the magma into towering waves of fiery color that crashed down heavily. The ensuing roar was like the collapse of mountains and the splitting of the earth. "Fallen heart flame, come out." Though the commotion was great, it was nothing to Goof. His expression remained calm as he shouted downward. Whoosh! As Goof's voice fell, the surface of the magma erupted in waves. From within the erupting magma, a massive, nearly transparent fire python with a head the size of a small mountain, covered in invisible flames, broke through the surface. It carried with it a terrifying energy that caused the space around it to tremble as it appeared before Goof. Hiss! The gigantic, transparent fire python, as if it had been imprisoned for millennia, raised its enormous head. A sharp sonic wave rapidly spread out, and with its expansion, the magma world seemed to be hit by countless bombs. Deep rumbling sounds echoed continuously, magma shot into the air, and flames spewed in all directions. After a nearly frenzied outburst, the massive transparent fire python suddenly sensed the gaze from above. It abruptly lifted its colossal head, and its triangular pupils, burning with invisible flames, locked onto the figure of a young man standing in the sky above the sea. "Kill me, and you can escape from here." Seeing the fire python's gaze, Goof smiled and spoke casually. "Fallen heart flame feels angry." Emotional value plus 20. Having been suppressed here for many years, the fallen heart flame had already developed some intelligence and harbored deep resentment towards all humans. It glared furiously at this audacious youth who dared to provoke it. Determined to ensure that Goof would never leave this magma pit alive. Hiss. In the next moment, the massive head of the transparent fire python shot out a pillar of fire. Goof's figure moved quickly, closing in on the invisible fire python while launching a massive fire pillar from his palm to meet it. As the two energies collided, the blazing sky chi refining tower trembled under the impact. Has it begun? Outside, many students and elders sensed the powerful shockwave. The shockwave was so terrifying that many people turned pale. All the elders raised their hands simultaneously, forming a protective barrier around all the inner academy students. At the bottom of the tower, above the magma sea. After one clash, Goof's breathing remained steady, clearly holding the upper hand. He didn't use any words to provoke the fallen heart flame, instead, flames ignited in his eyes. If it wants to fight, then let it fight. This invisible fire python was indeed troublesome, but it was nothing for him. Since it's hiding, I will make my attacks cover every corner, and let's see where it can escape to. Vast amounts of chi surged towards the ground, causing the magma to explode, splattering red flames. The sound of wails could be heard occasionally. This overwhelming advantage allowed Goof to effortlessly capture the fire python's spirit, finally subduing it. The fire spirit let out one last wail before ceasing to struggle in Goof's hands. The magma at the bottom fell silent. In just a minute or two, the invisible fire python was subdued. Goof then began refining the fallen heart flame. The intense flames burned fiercely but were easily refined by Goof. The fire gradually merged into his body without any turbulence. Now, Goof had already refined 2 types of heavenly flames, and the final fusion of flames was naturally stronger than the fallen heart flame. Therefore, the refining process wasn't difficult. After refining the fallen heart flame, Goof opened his eyes and continued to gaze at the magma sea. He had previously mentioned compensating the inner academy. Thus, he decided to descend into the magma sea to retrieve the fallen heart flame's infant form from beside Yao Tianhuo's corpse, as described in the original story, and hand it over to the inner academy. This way, the inner academy would not gradually lose its unique characteristics due to the absence of the fallen heart flame. Instead, it would become even better. Because the previous fallen heart flame was extremely violent, it would occasionally erupt, and its hatred-filled nature made it want to destroy the entire inner academy. But the infant fallen heart flame, raised and nurtured by the inner academy from a young age, would eventually treat the inner academy as its home and protect it. Chapter 72, Fire Lizard Race, Sky Fire Venerable. As Goof descended deeper, the fallen heart flame that he had just subdued began to tremble, burning more fiercely. It seemed to be urgently drawn towards the depths of the magma, as if it wanted to meet someone. It seems the fallen heart flame is sensing the presence of Venerable Yao Tianhuo below. Goof raised an eyebrow. This was convenient, as the magma hindered one's perception of the surrounding environment, making it easier to navigate using the fallen heart flame's connection to its former master. Following the fallen heart flame's guidance, Goof adjusted his direction continuously, descending deeper into the magma sea. In the distance, a strange white ring of light appeared. Whoosh! Suddenly, a scorching gust of wind rushed at him. At this critical moment, Goof displayed an astonishing level of reflexes. With a flash of green light beneath his feet, his body twisted into an odd arc, easily dodging the attack. As he quickly retreated, Goof turned his gaze towards the source of the gust. Under his watchful eye, about 30 meters away, a red figure moved within the magma. Its entire body was bright red, blending in with the surrounding magma, making it hard to notice without careful observation. The creature's body was covered in red scales. A red-scaled tail, about half a meter long, swayed slightly as the creature stood on 2 feet. However, its feet were unusually large, and its round head was covered in fine scales. Its small eyes glinted with a hint of ferocity. The creature's mouth opened slightly, revealing rows of sharp teeth, resembling a lizard that could walk upright. This must be the fire lizard race described in the original story. As a transmigrator, Goof wasn't too surprised by the strange creature. Chirp. Chirp. As Goof stared at the magma creature, it returned his gaze with equal ferocity. After a brief standoff, the creature's eyes suddenly gleamed with malevolence, emitting a piercing screech. Its tail flicked, and its sharp claws sliced through the magma, charging straight at Goof. With the fire lizard's low strength, Goof easily deflected it with a wave of his sleeve. A streak of chi shot out, sending the fire lizardman flying, killing it. Goof then made a sucking motion with his hand, and a small, bright red bead appeared in his palm. The bead emitted a faint, scorching glow, containing a potent and violent fire attribute energy. Curiously examining the bead for a moment, Goof then casually tossed it into his storage ring. It was just the core of a Emperor-level lizardman, which was quite useless to him. Just as he was about to refocus on the transparent light ring, Goof's gaze shifted towards the western part of the magma. The magma there suddenly began to churn violently. Moments later, a large group of red figures surged forward like a school of fish. These creatures gather pretty quickly. Goof frowned, not wanting to engage in prolonged combat. Among the swarm of fire lizardmen, there were already a few with ancestor-level strength. Goof knew that within the flame lizardman race, there were individuals with strength surpassing ancestor, and deep within, there were even 2 lizardmen who had reached the half-saint level. If those 2 were alerted, he could be in real danger. Out of my way. With Goof's speed, he easily outpaced the lizardman. As he sped through the magma, anguished cries echoed behind him. After defeating several of the fire lizardmen blocking his path, Goof finally neared the white light ring. With a swift movement, he delivered a powerful palm strike, sending a lizardman flying away from the light ring. He then dashed into the white light ring. As Goof entered, the surrounding magma began to churn once more, slowly rotating before mysteriously disappearing from the sight of the numerous lizardmen. Not long after Goof entered the light shield, several blood-red figures shot through the magma like lightning, arriving at the area. Upon seeing these figures, the surrounding fire lizardmen hurriedly knelt down. It seemed that this species was not adept at manipulating spatial energy. The generate-level fire lizardmen couldn't detect what was happening within the white light ring. They roared in frustration but were helpless. After a few angry roars, the blood-red figures reluctantly gave up, casting a final resentful glance at the light shield before leading the lizardmen away. As they left, the area became quiet once again. Inside the white light ring, Goof appeared and found himself staring at a skeleton. On the skeleton, a small fallen heart flame was quietly burning. The flame was much smaller than the one within Goof, and the heat it emitted was far less intense. At the same time, Goof sensed a spiritual presence scanning him. "Come out." Goof called to the skeleton. As his voice fell, a brilliant white light suddenly burst from the bones, wriggling before transforming into a vague, elderly figure. The figure wore white robes, his hair and beard were snow white, and his aged face was marked by a faint glimmer of wisdom in his otherwise calm eyes. Yaotian Huo experiences shock and panic. Emotional value plus 60 to think that at such a young age, you have already reached the peak of the ancestor level, and your spiritual power is so strong. The old man's gaze swept over Goof, showing a hint of admiration. A genius like Goof was rare, even in the old man's era. "You're not the first to praise me," Goof responded calmly, having heard such compliments many times before. Seeing this, the white-robed elder smiled, a pride that came from deep within his bones showing through his expression. "I am Yaotian Huo, but some also call me the Skyfire Venerable." A venerable. That title signified he had reached the venerate level in his lifetime. Hearing this, Goof remained unfazed, and directly asked, "Judging by the fallen heart flame's earlier reaction, you must be its previous master." "You guessed correctly. I was indeed the previous master of the fallen heart flame," the heavenly fire venerable chuckled. His gaze grew nostalgic as he looked at the small fallen heart flame. "Years ago, I discovered the fallen heart flame here in this magma sea. It took me several years to subdue it, and the flame I captured back then is the same one now within you." As the Skyfire Venerable began recounting his past, Goof quietly listened without interruption. Chapter 73, Big Brother, Can You Take Me Home? Back then, I relied on my abilities, thinking I could go anywhere in the world. After I subdued that fallen heart flame, I didn't leave. Instead, I was curious and ventured deeper into this magma world. The tone of Skyfire Venerable carried a hint of regret, as if he was lamenting his past recklessness. After going deeper, I discovered another fallen heart flame seed and greedily tried to take it as well. But merging 2 different types of heavenly flames within my body triggered a fierce battle between them, severely injuring me. At that moment, I was attacked. Skyfire Venerable sighed deeply. Ultimately, due to the fire lizardman's siege and the severe internal injuries, my body gradually crumbled. In those final moments, I released the mature fallen heart flame and attached my soul to the infant flame seed, hoping to preserve it. But after so many years, my soul has gradually weakened. If no one enters this place within a few years, my soul might completely dissipate. Skyfire Venerable paused, then looked at Goof with a pleading expression. "Young friend, could you take me out of here?" He didn't demand that Goof help him reconstruct his physical body like he did with Zhao Yan in the original story because Goof was much stronger and could easily kill him at any time. "Of course, I won't let you help me for nothing. I have a combat technique, as powerful as a heaven tier technique." The next moment, a faint white scroll was handed to Goof by Skyfire Venerable. Goof vaguely remembered this combat technique. If mastered, it could rival even top-tier heaven-tier techniques. "If I don't leave soon, I might not last a few more years. This 5-ring flame expelling technique is the combat skill that made me famous. Young friend." Skyfire Venerable feels anxious and restless, emotional value plus 50 since we have met, we could say it's fate. "I will take you out of here." Goof put away the scroll and nodded, agreeing to the request. Thank you, young friend. I am deeply grateful. In the future, I will surely repay you. Skyfire Venerable feels grateful, emotional value plus 50. Then, Goof collected both the Fallen Heart Flame and Skyfire Venerable soul. With his soul sealed within a spatial ring, Goof made sure that he wouldn't be able to spy on his private matters. Goof knew that deep within this magma was the entrance to the Chi ancient god mansion. However, with his current strength, entering it would either get him killed by the half-saint lizardman guarding the entrance or his soul shattered by the old dragon Emperor Zhukun who watched over the place. So, he just glanced in that direction before deciding to leave, intending to explore it only when he became stronger. Several minutes later, Sukion, who had been waiting outside the Heavenly Flame Refining Tower, suddenly stood up. In his sight, Goof walked out from the tower passage with a calm expression. Sukion feels puzzled, emotional value plus 40. Senior, how did it go? Sukion asked with a puzzled expression, seeing Goof return so quickly. Brother Goof, did you get what you wanted? Zhao Yan feels concerned, emotional value plus 100. King Lin feels concerned, emotional value plus 70. Both Zhao Yan and King Lin stepped forward, asking with concern. Everything is settled. Goof smiled, replying to both of them before turning to Sukion. The previous Fallen Heart Flame has been subdued. But when I went a bit deeper, I discovered an Fallen Heart Flame seed. I believe this will be more suitable for your Jianan Academy. If nurtured properly, it should be even more useful than the previous Fallen Heart Flame. As he spoke, a small, budding Fallen Heart Flame floated in Goof's palm. Sukion feels delighted, emotional value plus 40. This is actually a Fallen Heart Flame seed. Thank you, Senior. Sukion said excitedly. He understood that this seed was indeed more practical than the original Fallen Heart Flame. The previous Fallen Heart Flame had developed sentience, resenting its captivity within the Academy, and harbored hatred, constantly seeking to destroy the Inner Academy. However, this seed, under the cultivation of the Inner Academy elders, could release flames and protect the Academy like its own home. But the cunning Sukion remembered that Goof had mentioned compensation earlier, so he cautiously probed, I wonder, Senior, what kind of compensation did you intend to give the Inner Academy? Would a zong-breaking pill be enough? Hearing this, Goof paused for a moment, an action that made Sukion quite nervous. But when Goof took out a jade bottle and handed it to him, Sukion finally breathed a sigh of relief, almost retracting his previous words as a joke. The zong-breaking pill was a peak-level tier 6 pill, insignificant to Goof. He had been able to refine such pills long ago and didn't consider it valuable. However, to Jianan Academy, this pill was extremely precious. Among the elders in the Inner Academy, there were several at the peak of Temperor. With this zong-breaking pill, the Academy might produce an ancestor within a few years. Sukion feels delighted, emotional value plus 40. It's more than enough. Thank you, Senior. Before Goof, Sukion acted like a junior, with none of the usual sternness he displayed towards the young students in the Academy. This behavior left the students watching in shock. Liu King feels shocked, emotional value plus 1. Big brother, hello. Suddenly, a childish voice called out beside Goof. He turned to see Ziyan, her big, bright eyes gazing up at him innocently. What a cute little sister. Seeing such an adorable little girl, Zhao Yan smiled warmly. At that moment, Ziyan looked very well behaved, and with her cute appearance, she could easily win over many people. However, Goof knew better. This girl was actually quite fierce. Liu King feels surprised, emotional value plus 1. Is this really the brute strength queen? If I hadn't seen her break someone's ribs with one punch that day, I might have been fooled by her too. Goof remained expressionless, while the reactions of the Inner Academy students, who had seen Ziyan's usual rough demeanor, showed just how taken aback they were. Little sister, do you need something? Seeing that Goof hadn't responded, Zhao Yan asked on his behalf. Ziyan feels hesitant, emotional value plus 100. I wanted to ask Big Brother. Do you really know about my origins? Ziyan hesitantly asked. It seemed that Sukion had told her something earlier when Goof went to the bottom of the Heavenly Flame Refining Tower. I do know about your origins. Goof nodded. Really? Ziyan feels joyful, emotional value plus 100. Could you please tell me? Ziyan eagerly asked. If you want to know about your origins, you need to leave the northwestern region and go to the Central Plains. Your kin live there. Goof didn't hide the truth. Listening to their conversation, the others around were somewhat puzzled. Ziyan feels hesitant, emotional value plus 100. Then. Can you take me home? After hesitating again, Ziyan clenched her fists, her eyes filled with determination. Chapter 74, Black Emperor City, Bodhisattva Transformation Saliva. For the first time, Ziyan felt so nervous as she looked into the deep, calm black eyes in front of her, trying hard to display a well-behaved smile. Ziyan felt nervous. Emotion value plus 100. Sure, I can take you back to your plan, but on the way, you must promise to listen to me and not throw any tantrums. Goof nodded but felt a headache thinking of how unruly Ziyan was in the original story, so he gave her a heads up. Ziyan felt guilty. Emotion value plus 100. Haven't I been acting really obedient? Could it be that Big Brother heard the discussions among the other students? Feeling a bit guilty, Ziyan weakly promised, "Don't worry, Big Brother, I will behave." The surrounding students in the inner academy looked at Ziyan, blinking her big eyes and showing off her sharp little teeth with an innocent expression. They all showed a mixture of surprise and disbelief. Is the brute force queen really going to turn over a new leaf? You believe that? I heard that the day after she promised the Grand Elder to behave, she burned down her house. Of course, Ziyan heard their whispers, and her little fists tightened inside her sleeves. Her expression still appeared innocent, but if those fists landed on anyone, they would likely be bedridden for several days. Goof glanced at Ziyan, his gaze indifferent. Ziyan felt surprised and guilty. Emotion value plus 100. The bit of chi that had gathered at Ziyan's fingertips dissipated into the air. She smiled as if nothing had happened. Big Brother's perception. Is it really that sharp? Sukion, of course, noticed their movements. He felt his brow twitch and sighed helplessly, looking like someone long accustomed to being exasperated by Ziyan. Though this girl is mischievous, she has a good heart. Sukion stepped forward and explained on Ziyan's behalf. Goof wasn't sure whether to believe it or not and simply responded with a light. Sukion felt hesitant. Emotion value plus 50. Sukion's scrutinizing gaze fell on Goof. He knew Ziyan had always longed to understand her origins. Now, she happened to meet someone who knew about her background. After brief contact, Sukion felt that Goof wasn't someone with bad intentions. This was his intuition. So, after confirming that Goof could likely keep Ziyan in check, he didn't oppose her going out. After all, Ziyan had stayed at Jianan Academy for far too long without ever leaving. Seeing both Goof and the Grand Elder agree, Ziyan's little face lit up with a wide smile, and she happily jumped around. Zhao Yizyan and King Lin watched her openly express her emotions, both smiling as well. Not long after, Goof didn't linger much longer at Jianan Academy. Since the academy no longer had anything of great importance to him, once Ziyan packed her things, they prepared to leave. Ziyan, make sure to behave out there. Sukion, having watched over Ziyan at the academy for so long, couldn't help but feel a bit reluctant as he patted her head. Grand Elder, I will definitely come back to see you, Ziyan said brightly before turning and excitedly jumping onto the broad back of the amethyst-winged Lion King. The lion's back was furry, and Ziyan rolled around, burying herself in the softness. Sukion withdrew his gaze and shook his head helplessly. Senior, I will leave Ziyan in your care. Goof nodded and then embraced Zhao Yizyan and King Lin as they all climbed onto the lion's back. The four of them waved goodbye, still able to see the relieved expressions in the eyes of the inner academy students. Several students also gazed at Goof with admiration, their hearts filled with a yearning for strength. Lin Ziyuya felt longing. Emotion value plus 30. Liu King felt longing. Emotion value plus 30. The Lion King flapped its wings and soared into the sky. Goof's gaze turned towards the distance, his eyes deep in thought. The next destination Goof planned to visit was Black Emperor City. According to his memory, in the original story, the people of the Black Emperor sect would auction a portion of the Bodhisattva transformation saliva in a few years. This treasure might already be in their possession. The original story also mentioned that the Black Emperor sect had researched the Bodhisattva transformation saliva for many years without any progress, which led them to reluctantly put it up for auction. The Bodhisattva transformation saliva, in the original story, was a treasure that many Dancester experts in the Black Corner region fiercely fought over. This Bodhisattva transformation saliva, if consumed, could transform and improve some rare human constitutions, making it quite miraculous. Moreover, it's said that possessing the Bodhisattva transformation saliva could help someone sense the presence of the Bodhisattva heart. In some remote mountains, there exists a mystical tree called the Bodhisattva ancient tree. The rhizome of this tree, buried deep underground, will gradually form a thick heart-shaped item that will possess a mysterious effect. It slowly agglomerates over the years, and is known as the Bodhisattva heart. Generally speaking, it takes at least 1,000 years for the Bodhisattva ancient tree to form the Bodhisattva heart. The Bodhisattva transformation saliva is some of the mystical substance secreted from the surface of the heart. As for the heart, it is a true treasure nurtured by the essence of heaven and earth. If someone were to consume it, it's said that it could gradually replace their heart, allowing them to survive even if their heart suffers a fatal blow. Furthermore, the strength provided by this heart would far surpass that of the original heart. Most importantly, it continuously nurtures the soul, gradually strengthening it. For an alchemist, This would be an irresistible temptation. For now, Goof's main goal was to gather the materials needed to improve Zhao Yixian's constitution. This was an essential step for the poison pill method. In the original story, Zhao Yan helped Zhao Yixian control her woeful poisoned body by refining the poison pill, which required 3 key items: various types of heavenly flames, the magic core of a 7th-rank magical beast, the sky poison dragon scorpion beast, and the bodhisattva transformation saliva. The journey was mostly peaceful, but Goof noticed that Xian seemed listless every day, as if he had mistreated her. He sighed helplessly, then rummaged through his storage ring and finally took out a handful of pills. Xian was curled up, bored, watching the scenery below. When she heard Goof call her, she looked over with droopy eyes. But when she saw what was in his palm, her eyes lit up. A handful of pills. Xian felt delighted. Emotion value plus 100. Xian immediately sprang up. Big brother Goof, are all of these for me? Goof nodded, then handed them all to her. Without even looking, she tossed them into her mouth, her cheeks puffing out as she chewed. Slow down, no one's going to take them from you. These were pills Goof had specifically chosen with some flavor. He hadn't paid much attention to the quality, knowing that Xian's strong body could digest anything that wasn't extremely toxic. After swallowing everything, Xian wiped her mouth and smiled sweetly. Thank you, big brother Goof. Xian felt grateful. Emotion value plus 100. Goof patted Xian's head, realizing that occasionally feeding this little one was actually kind of fun. Chapter 75, Please, give me a transformation pill. A day later, Goof, Zhao Yixian, and their companions followed the map's directions, riding the amethyst-winged Lion King as they gradually approached the Black Emperor city. As they drew closer, the vast city at the end of the road finally appeared in the group's view. What a majestic city! From the Lion King's back, Zhao Yixian gazed at the towering city walls in the distance, her eyes flashing with a hint of admiration. Indeed, the Black Emperor city lived up to its name. Its grand scale didn't diminish the emperor title it carried. The pitch-black city walls stretched to the horizon, exuding a cold, chilling aura. Under the sunlight, the black walls reflected a faint glow, like a mirror. Anyone knowledgeable would recognize that the walls were covered with a rare material known as black mirror stone. Walls made from this material had the unique effect of deflecting certain attacks, making it an excellent choice for fortification. However, black mirror stone was quite rare. That the Black Emperor sect could use it to cover an entire city wall demonstrated their powerful foundation. Upon arriving, Goof didn't intend to waste any time. He directly rode the Lion King into the city, heading straight for the Black Emperor sect's gate. The Lion King stopped midair, its enormous figure already drawing the attention of the sect members. Who dares trespass in our Black Emperor sect? Countless Black Emperor sect disciples stood on guard as a dozen figures flew into the sky. These were the sect elders, all of whom had reached the king and emperor levels. Seeing this, Xian became a little nervous. Though mischievous, she knew the strength of these dozen people before her. Call your sect leader Motian Crossing, I have something to discuss with him. Goof stepped off the Lion King and walked on air, an action that immediately intimidated the Black Emperor sect's emperor elders. No one expected such a young man to be a Dancester expert. Moreover, the pressure Goof exuded was far stronger than their sect leaders. As soon as Goof's words fell, an elderly man in a yellow robe stepped forward through the air. His robe was embroidered with several golden pythons that, under the sunlight, reflected a faint light, as if they were alive, exuding a peculiar sense of oppression. What business does the senior have with me? Although Mo Tanxing was a 3-starred ancestor, he was well aware of his position in front of Goof. Hence, he addressed him with great respect. Mo Tanxing feels fear and suspicion, emotional value plus 30. Goof glanced at him and directly asked, do you have the bodhisattva transformation saliva? Upon hearing this, a flash of surprise and hesitation appeared in Mo Tianxing's eyes. Although he hid his emotions well, Goof still noticed them. I don't like hearing lies. Goof snorted coldly, releasing an imposing aura that pressed down on Mo Tanxing. Mo Tianxing feels panic, emotional value plus 35. Senior, I do indeed possess that item. Mo Tianxing broke into a cold sweat and nodded. He did have the bodhisattva transformation saliva but had not yet figured out how to use it. Given Goof's formidable aura, Mo Tanxing suspected that Goof had already learned of the item. He realized that continuing to conceal the truth might bring disaster, so he wisely decided not to hide the fact that he had it. I will exchange some pills for that body transformation saliva. Do you agree? Goof's cold gaze fell on Mo Tianxing, his aura overwhelming. Mo Tanxing didn't dare refuse. After a slight pause, he ordered his men to retrieve the bodhisattva transformation saliva from the treasure vault and respectfully handed it to Goof. Goof then casually tossed 2 jade bottles to Motian Crossing. Mo Tanxing feels joy, emotional value plus 35. It's a zone-breaking pill, And there's even a spiritual recovery purple pill. Mo Tangsing exclaimed in delight. He had thought that encountering a powerhouse like Goof would inevitably lead to financial loss, but he hadn't expected to gain something valuable in return. These 2 pills together were worth more than the still unknown Bodhisattva transformation saliva. Thank you, senior. A flicker of excitement crossed Mo Tianxing's eyes as he quickly stowed away the pills before bowing deeply to Goof. Goof paid him no attention and directly returned to the amethyst-winged Lion King's back. I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Jia Yizhan, King Lin, and Zan gathered around him. They all knew that this item was essential for treating Jia Yizhan's condition. Mo Tianxing was quite sensible. Goof chuckled and took out the transformation saliva from his spatial ring. In front of them was a transparent crystal box that reflected a dazzling, dreamlike light under the sun. Inside the crystal box, a faint, mysterious glow swirled around. Within the glow was a fist-sized, jade-green, viscous substance that floated and swayed as if alive. The greenish liquid floated in midair, seemingly supported by nothing, and it appeared to have some intelligence, slowly drifting within the box. The strange glow on its surface made it look exceptionally magical. Jia Yizhan's beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity, while King Lin and Zan moved closer, staring intently at the body transformation saliva. Big brother Goof, where are we going next? After a while, Zan licked her lips, swallowed several pills, and tilted her head to ask. Goof smiled. Central Plains. Zan feels excitement, emotional value plus 100 really? That's awesome. Goof's plan was to leave the northwestern region and head to Central Plains. This region no longer held much interest for him. Their first destination was the nearest city with a spatial wormhole, Horizon City. There, Goof planned to use a spatial wormhole to travel to Central Plains. Considering this for a moment, Goof decided to give the Lion King a body transformation pill so it could control the spaceship in the spatial passage. Amethyst-winged Lion King feels joy, emotional value plus 30 thank you, Master. A deep voice echoed as the Lion King consumed the transformation pill. Its beastly eyes closed tightly as intense purple light began to radiate from its body. Seeing this, Zan's eyes widened in surprise. Big brother Goof, I want a transformation pill too. Zan pleaded cutely, looking at Goof. Hearing this, Goof patted Zan's head and said, I will give you one when you reached Emperor level. Alright then. Zan pouted but reluctantly agreed, then turned and began to focus on her training. Chapter 76, Enlightenment and Breakthrough. Young friend, the space wormhole is temporarily experiencing some issues and requires maintenance. In the central plaza of Horizon City, a blue-robed old man respectfully addressed Goof. This old man was Luo Qing, the ancestor of the Wo family. He stood before 5 people, Goof, Jia Yizhan, King Lin, Ziyan, and the amethyst-winged Lion King, who had taken the form of a middle-aged man. It's a small problem, it will be fixed soon. Goof nodded and then turned his gaze to the center of the stone platform. There, a massive pitch-black hole, about 10 meters wide, slowly rotated. A powerful spatial force emanated from it, though at the moment, this force was somewhat chaotic. In the next moment, the space around Goof began to distort. A vast amount of spatial power surged forth and rushed into the space wormhole. This space wormhole had existed for many years, causing the spatial imprint between the 2 locations to become somewhat blurred. To repair it, one simply needed to use spatial power to deepen the imprint between the 2 places, which would solve the problem. Given Goof's current peaked ancestor's strength, it didn't take long to repair. It's done. 10 minutes later, Goof opened his eyes. The chaotic spatial force emanating from the space wormhole on the stone platform gradually dissipated. Let's go. Without saying much, Goof led Jia Yizhan and the others into the space wormhole. The moment the 5 entered the wormhole, their figures vanished instantly. Watching the disappearance of Goof and his companions, Luo Cheng clicked his tongue and sighed, I wonder which faction these people belong to. I have never heard of such young ancestor experts within 1,000 miles. Could they be from Central Plains? As soon as they stepped into the space wormhole, Jia Yizhan, King Lin, and the others suddenly felt their vision go dark, and their bodies experienced a sense of weightlessness. Fortunately, this feeling quickly faded, and a strange space tunnel appeared before their eyes. In front of them was a space tunnel that seemed endless. On both sides of the tunnel were faint silver-colored space barriers, and within these barriers was a passage about 10 meters wide. At the end of the passage lay an abyss of darkness. The entire passage was eerily silent, with not a sound to be heard. This place is so dark. It was Jia Yizhan and King Lin's first time seeing such a space tunnel, and they were a little scared, sticking close to Goof. Even the amethyst-winged Lion King couldn't help but feel somewhat lost. Don't be afraid. Goof reassured them, then pulled out a small wooden boat from his storage ring. As soon as the small object appeared, it expanded rapidly, like a fish entering water. In just a few blinks of an eye, it had transformed into a ship several meters long and wide, with thin silver spatial forces swirling around its surface, giving it an air of mystery. Lion King, at the bow, there's an energy input point. Just infuse some chi there, and this space boat will be able to travel through the space tunnel. Goof instructed the Lion King before boarding the ship with Zhao Yixian and the others. Yes, Master. The Lion King responded respectfully, then moved to the bow and infused his chi. Instantly, the entire ship began to tremble slightly. Finally, a force shot out from the stern, and with a swoosh, the space boat transformed into a streak of silver light, shooting through the tunnel at lightning speed toward the void of darkness. Traveling through the space wormhole, it would take about 10 days to reach Beijing in Central Plains. At first, Ziyan was quite enthusiastic, diligently cultivating with a serious expression as she absorbed chi with her eyes closed. However, she couldn't sit still for long. After a few days, she grew restless and started chatting with the others when Goof wasn't paying attention. King Lin, aren't you bored? Not at all. This experience is something I never even dreamed of before. At the moment, Ziyan was pestering King Lin,